Hello, everybody. Welcome back to What the Film. I'm your host, Logan Thompson, joined, as always, by
Ethan Kaufman. Hey, hi, hello, everybody.
So today is a big day. Today is the finale of our movie tournament. This is something that we've been doing for now 5 episodes. This makes it, we're really excited to get into it. And actually, just at the end of this episode, we are going to name off all the movies that are competing in there, because that's something that we forgot to do
That is.
at the start of our recording of the movie tournament. So stay tuned for that as we transition into the tournament itself. But we do have some news to cover first, just to stay timely. And most notably is TIFF.
Yeah.
TIFF just happened, and the People's Choice Award was given to The Life of Chuck. The People's Choice Award, if you don't already know, is the most, I'd say, substantial festival award that could be given to a movie to then mean it will be a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a People's Choice Award winner that wasn't a Best Picture nominee, I think, in years.
Yeah.
I don't think ever since there's been 10.
I did the research into the stat. 2011 was the last time it happened. The only time that it's happened since they went from 5 Best Picture nominees to up to 10. And the last 15 out of 16 winners have gone on to be nominated for Best Picture,
There you go.
with many going on to win.
Yeah. So it's a very substantial award. Now, not necessarily saying that this movie that has won, that being Life of Chuck, is going to win Best Picture, but it should be now a Best Picture nominee if it comes out this year. But given that it won this award, there is no reason for why Life of Chuck should not come out this year.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's really exciting to me. Just makes this Oscar race so much more thrilling. I mean, it's been one that we've already talked about being this wide open race, and this makes the race even more wide open than we already were saying it was. So I just think that that's exciting. And also coming in second and third place were Emilia Perez and Honora. This is kind of an anomaly where 2 movies that premiered at Cannes are like runners up for the People's Choice Award, just showing how strong those films are out of Cannes.
Yeah.
And also another Cannes premiere, The Substance, won the midnight screenings People's Choice Award.
Hype.
So big hype. That's a movie coming out this week that I am so excited to rewatch. And Ethan, I know you've been talking about watching it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be fantastic. So with that being said, I think now that we've talked about this a little bit, we should just dive into what our current Oscar 10s are.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you have any thoughts you want to add.
That was kind of it.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
So we got a couple of honorable mentions first. Ethan, do you want to go with yours first?
Yeah.
Okay.
My 5 honorable mentions. I have Saturday Night, The Piano Lesson, Gladiator 2, The Room Next Door, and Joker Folie à Deux.
We have 3 of the same.
Which 3?
Piano Lesson, Saturday Night, and A Real Pain. Also, I completely forgot about The Room Next Door, and I would put it in there as one, because, yeah, it should be in there, given that it won the Golden Lion. My other 2 are A Complete Unknown and Gladiator 2.
I mentioned Gladiator 2.
Oh, wait, did you say...
I did mention
Oh, wait,
Gladiator
then... Oh,
2.
did you say A Real Pain?
I did not mention A Real Pain.
That was what I meant to say.
That was
Sorry.
what you meant to
Complete
say.
Unknown and A Real Pain are my other 2.
Okay.
And, yeah, I mean... could really go any way. I just feel like A Complete Unknown and A Real Pain I can't rule out, because those are the 2 big Fox Searchlight movies that are Best Picture contenders.
Yeah.
And neither of them are in the Best Picture 10, which is weird because usually Searchlight has a movie in there.
Agreed.
So with that being said, no one's picked up Life of Chuck yet. So if Searchlight is what ends up picking up Life of Chuck, then
a good move, I feel like.
I feel like that would be a good move too. Then I would almost rule out A Real Pain completely. I wouldn't rule out A Complete Unknown, but I think I would rule out A Real Pain.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, let's get into our 10s. Do you want to go with your number 10 first?
Yeah, my number 10 is The Life of Chuck, which up until literally just winning the People's Choice Award was not on my radar at all, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm now just slotting it in at 10 because, like we just said, it won that the winner of that award has a very strong track record for then going on to become an Oscar contender. And so this might rise up higher than the 10 slot as time goes on, as we see more of what it's capable of in the race. I just don't know enough about it to put it above movies that I have heard about for months now. But it is in the 10 just because that's a pretty landmark award, like we said.
Yeah, and it would be, I think, the first time Stephen King has really gotten a lot of recognition at the Oscars, so I could totally see that being a big play for this film, given that it is based on a short Stephen King story. So if that's the angle that they go with, I think that it could really be boosted here, given that a lot of these films are being boosted by other people's careers. Also, Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
He has a solid supporting role here. A lot of people are now slotting him in as a supporting actor contender, kind of on the same wavelength as like Jude Hirsch from The Fabelmans.
Yeah.
So
which also won this award.
Exactly. So I could totally see Mark Hamill getting in there, especially because I don't think he's gotten any Oscar nominations yet, and he's Mark Hamill.
He is Mark Hamill.
So I would throw him in my 5 for supporting actor for sure. My number 10, though, is The Seed of the Sacred Fig.
Okay.
I know not as many people have talked about it now that it's played at the fall festivals because there's just been such a saturated market of other films, but people still have been seeing it and saying it's pretty good. And I just feel like Emilia Perez could count as like the international film of this year, given that it's directed by a French director and most of it's in Spanish, but it has a lot of very like recognizable stars in the US. And I just feel like Seed of the Sacred Fig can kind of play more into the international film. You know, Neon has been so good at getting movies into Best Picture. I could totally see that this being one of their 2 movies in Best Picture. And I have a lot of faith in this movie, given all the buzz that was around it at Cannes. And maybe that's just festival buzz, but I have a good feeling. And until it starts to just not get any awards anywhere, I'm probably going to be keeping it in my 10 spot.
Fair.
Yeah.
Valid.
Or unless Gladiator 2 is like incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of those 2.
Gotcha.
All right. Should I go with my number 9?
Do it.
All right. Sing Sing.
Sing Sing. Oh my God. At number 9.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
This is a huge lowering. And I think really what's doing it for me is The Brutalist being picked up by A24.
Okay.
Sing Sing has been around for over a year now. It premiered at TIFF, had some buzz there, then went to South by and went to a bunch of other festivals, got some buzz, had a really, really bad, I'm just going to say bad theatrical release run. Had like an AMC Screen Unseen bit where a lot of people liked it, but then released just so slowly and couldn't get out to even half of the amount of theaters that Past Lives got out to. To me, this is just another Past Lives for A24.
Really?
That's kind of what I'm seeing it as. I think it could get a Best Picture nomination. I think it can get a Best Actor nomination and maybe a supporting actor and maybe a screenplay. Like, that's kind of
much more down on this than I thought you were going to be.
I know, and it sucks, but it's just there's a lot of other movies now that have slotted themselves in as big contenders. So I've just kind of lost my place for Sing Sing, which is really unfortunate because I think it's a great film, but I don't see where it fits here.
Okay. Do I now talk about Sing Sing, or do we wait until...
We can wait for you to talk about it, yeah.
Okay. My number 9 is A Complete Unknown, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a lower tier where I don't think it's really contending to win Best Picture, but like last time James Mangold made a movie that wasn't Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, it received a Best Picture nomination. I think Timothée Chalamet has a very clear path to another Best Actor nomination. And I think like it's much more in line with older, like maybe a decade ago, maybe even like a Bohemian Rhapsody type thing where it's like it's a musical biopic that hopefully it's not super standard. I think it's a little bit more standard than a lot of newer kind of Oscar movies. But I just think it has a path towards it, and in what seems to be a very weird Oscar year, I do think it makes sense that you'd have at least a couple of the more traditional sort of Oscar flicks.
No, that's a solid place to put it. I feel like the Christmas release hasn't worked out for a lot of films in terms of the Oscars lately.
It's a little late.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like we saw that happen with The Iron Claw, which I think is a movie that just so many people who, like, even people that voted were mad about how late it got released and how like the press screenings worked out for that, because people then after they voted were like, I would have voted for The Iron Claw if I had the chance to see it, but I didn't. So I'm worried about how late that release is. It feels like a Christmas release has shifted from being a good Oscar movie release spot to actually a bit too late.
Okay.
We also saw that happen a bit with The Color Purple, which I think a lot of people thought was a big Oscar contender.
I also think that was more on the movie than the release date.
True. But how much better can a complete unknown be than The Color Purple?
We'll see.
Okay. My number... Oh, wait. No, you should do your number 8.
Okay. My number 8 is Nickel Boys.
Okay.
I don't know much about it. I just know really nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I've heard it's been on my radar just as an Oscar movie to look out for a while. And I think as more people have now like seen it at these festivals, the fact that it has stuck there is very telling, where like a lot of movies have fallen off as soon as people have actually watched them. I don't know too much about it, but I'm looking forward to hearing more and eventually seeing it so I can have more of my own opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's how I'm feeling too. My number 8, on the other hand, is Conclave.
Okay.
I'm shocked that Gold Derby had this at number 2. Just seemed very unprecedented. Weird. Didn't get anything at TIFF. Didn't have like any like Telluride recognition. Everybody at Telluride who did see it was like, it's good, but it's not like amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just very odd that it's at number 2. I don't see that at all. I mean, I think Ralph Fiennes is going to get an award. I think the score is going to get an award, maybe cinematography. I think it's going to get more technicals than something like Sing Sing, which is why I have it higher, because I just think if you're going to be getting more nominations for things, as well as like a best actor and possibly a screenplay and possibly a supporting actor, like what Sing Sing is doing, I'm going to put you a little higher than Sing Sing.
Yeah.
And so that's really why, the only reason why I have Conclave at number 8 rather than like number 9. I see it as a film that's going to get a lot of awards. I don't see it winning anything.
Really?
Yeah,
You think it's going to be that movie?
I think it's that movie.
Okay.
I mean, unless maybe it wins score, but like also Dune 2.
Yeah.
You know? I don't really see it. Also, from what I've heard, like The Life of Chuck is like magical in terms of like the aesthetic it's going for, so maybe it has a really good score too. And I don't know, I don't really see it for Conclave.
All right.
My number 7, by the way, is Life of Chuck.
Okay.
So yeah, there it is. I'm feeling pretty decent about it. I just think it's coming around right at the right time when we don't have a lot of movies that feel like huge, like no movie feels solidified.
No.
You know? Yeah. Really, it could be anyone's game. I could see any of the 10 movies that I have. I could actually see some of my honorable mentions too, actually, like becoming the Best Picture winner.
Right.
You know, it feels
super up in the air.
Yeah, it feels very wide open, which is so exciting to me. So that's why I have The Life of Chuck a little higher than number 10, like you do, just because it won the People's Choice. Also, Mike Flanagan, the director, has been doing a lot in terms of the horror space. This is his first shift into really a non-horror film. So this could be a really good time to recognize him, as he is pretty much seen as like the premier horror director like of our time right now. And if you're going to recognize him, if you're going to recognize Stephen King, you want to recognize like Mark Hamill and Tom Hiddleston, it seems like this is when you do it.
Yeah.
And it just depends on if they want to do that. But really, like, again, the Stephen King route is probably the best route to go for marketing this movie as an Oscar play. And I'm curious if they're going to go with that.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. My number 7 is Blitz. It's definitely fallen where, like, before anybody had seen any of these, it was, oh my gosh, Steve McQueen is doing a World War II movie and Saoirse Ronan's in it. Oh my gosh. And because they have pushed the premiere so far out from a lot of these others, I feel like narratives are starting to kind of form a little, and Blitz still doesn't really have one because just nobody's seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to see if that changes once it actually does start screening. But like again, it's gonna rack up, I think, a lot of technical nominations. I don't know if it'll win any of them, but like just because it is a period piece, obviously there's a lot going into the makeup and hair, the costuming, the production design. I think it's sure to pop up a couple places, and because of that, it is just naturally gonna have more of a presence to where I am slotting it in for Best Picture. But I think this has potential to like rise up to top 3 or completely fall out of it, just depending on where that goes.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, well, what do you got at 6?
And then I guess my number 6, I have Conclave at 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I feel like I see it as being a movie to get a lot of nominations and just not really take off in any one specific category.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Ray Fiennes has a pretty solid push for Best Actor if they're trying to push in that direction. But I don't know, like you said, everyone who has seen it kind of really likes it, but no one's over the moon about it.
Exactly.
To where I would even maybe say there was more passion for All Quiet. And so for Edward Berger, I don't know if that's a good thing. If this is trying to become like that big Oscar movie.
Yeah, I don't see that. And I think what like All Quiet also kind of seemed to fit the mold of almost the blockbuster
a little bit
contender of that year, which is weird when like Avatar and Top Gun were there, but it seemed like All Quiet was kind of the movie that people picked in terms of
it was kind of less of a blockbuster and more of an Oscar skewed blockbuster, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And we have other movies that are gonna fit more of that Oscar skewed blockbuster mold.
Yeah.
And also Conclave just isn't a blockbuster. It's not an action film. It's not a war film.
It's one of those men in rooms talking type deals.
Yeah, exactly. Granted, I'm very excited to see those men talk in those rooms. Like, I am very excited to see Conclave. I want to make that clear. All right, so my number 6, I'm pretty sure these next 2 are movies that you've already done, which is kind of funny. So my number 6 is Nickel Boys.
All right.
I wanted to put it a little higher because the way that people are talking about it is in the vein of I've never seen a movie like this before, kind of a movie. It seems to be doing something really interesting with the POV cinematography. And I saw the short trailer that they released for this, and it looks beautiful. I'm very interested in seeing this film. I've been hearing a lot of like Tree of Life comparisons for the cinematography. And yeah, like I feel like that type of buzz is just really positive. And I've heard really good things about the performances. I just think this could be a huge play in directing, cinematography, Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor as supporting actress, and I think those 3 together can really help push Nickel Boys. So that's how I'm feeling. I feel good.
We shall see.
We shall see.
Yes.
All right. My number 5 is Blitz.
All right.
So I don't want to lower Blitz, and the reason why is because I think that the narratives are, for lack of a better word, bullshit.
Really?
They are confident in Blitz enough to feel like they don't need the fall festivals and can do the thing that's a lot more genuine to the film, which is waiting for it to premiere in London, the setting of the film, the place that got bombarded by the bombs that are the centerpiece of this film's story. So I think it's like a genuinely meaningful decision to wait for the London premiere, and shows that they're confident enough in this film where they don't need the other fall festivals to push it as an Oscar film. It's a Steve McQueen war film starring Saoirse Ronan. It's gonna be an Oscar contender. There's nothing that's gonna convince me otherwise unless people walk out of this movie and say it's the worst movie they've ever seen.
Really?
So I don't think it's gonna win Best Picture, but I'm not going to put it below Conclave or really like any movie that I have like above it. I feel like there's a very fine divide between Nickel Boys and Blitz, in my opinion.
Okay.
Or a gap, I should say. I'm feeling more confident now that the fall festivals have gone by.
Okay.
In all honesty.
So your top 5 are like your top tier?
Yeah.
Kinda? Okay.
Yeah.
My top 4 are my top tier.
Okay. So what's your number 5? End of the top tier.
My number 5 is Emilia Perez. And
wow.
Yeah,
Not top tier?
Not top tier. It's close. I wouldn't be surprised if it winds up getting there eventually. Mm-hmm. And obviously you've seen it. So
yes.
I'm at a bit of a disadvantage here in judging it. The reception that it has gotten so far is generally really, really good, but there are a few reviews I've seen of people who just didn't vibe with it, and that's been a lot of movies in the last couple of years that have gone on to be crazy Oscar contenders. But I feel like because it is such a wide open year, reviews like that matter a little more, where like there's not really a consensus Best Picture winner. A lot of these aren't even consensus Best Picture nominees. And so having a movie that is not a consensus good to great movie, I'm hesitant to put it higher. That being said, I think obviously like between the whole cast and just clearly whatever crazy directorial vision's going on here that you bore witness to back at Cannes that I'm excited to, like I would not be surprised if those people who didn't resonate with it just end up not mattering, and this goes on to become one of the biggest Oscar movies of the year. I just think there's a little bit of hesitancy to where I can't put it higher than 5.
That's fair. I guess my argument for why I think it should be a little higher. Actually, wait. I'll just wait till I go over it. Never mind. Okay, so I'll wait because I do have a bit of an argument against that.
Okay.
But I'll wait. Okay. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is The Brutalist, which I think I would say more than any other movie on here, at least to me right now, has potential to like climb even further and become, if not number 1, like maybe number 2. It's still relatively new to the pool from what I'm hearing, and it's 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And yes, Killers of the Flower Moon was 3.5 hours, but one, it was a Scorsese movie, and so you have that name attached to it. And even then, it didn't do as well as I think a lot of people were expecting, where it missed out on screenplay. It didn't win anything. And so while I think there were other reasons for that, such as Oppenheimer just being this titan and Poor Things resonating with more people than expected, the fact that a 3.5 hour movie by Martin Scorsese can't win a single Oscar or be nominated in a category that really it should have been, like Brady Corbett is nowhere near that level of name recognition.
No.
And I'm very curious to see where this goes, because since it premiered, obviously everyone's been all over it. A24 obviously picked it up, and it's tough to tell whether that was a reaction to Sing Sing not doing as well in like the narrative game, or they just like it was less related. I don't know, but I'm curious to see, because obviously I've not talked about Sing Sing yet. So.
Meaning that you have it higher than a Brutalist.
That I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see them both being that high when A24
Really?
has them both and they're competing.
There's no rule. It's not written anywhere.
It's
that,
not
like,
a rule,
studio
but
can only have one big Oscar contender.
It's just that like studios only have a certain amount of money, especially A24, which isn't like a huge studio.
But like just looking at the 2023 ceremony, it's like pretty much any major award that year was won by A24.
That's fair.
Know.
That's fair. But that was because they had one movie that was the huge contender.
Well, no, because they had Everything Everywhere, which got 7 awards.
Yeah.
But then, like, Brendan Fraser also won Best Actor for The Whale.
Yeah, but it wasn't competing against Everything Everywhere. There's no Best Actor.
But it was
Everything
a tight
Everywhere.
race, and it beat Elvis, and it beat Banshees.
But still.
We'll see.
Okay. Also, like that, the career redemption, like, type of angle, which I think Adrian Brody almost kind of has for The Brutalist.
Does he need his career redemption?
Or not like redemption, but just like
he's always been here.
Like people are like saying that this is his best ever performance.
I'm
you know
sure
what I mean?
it is, but I also don't think like yes, he's Adrian Brody, and like I love him, everyone loves him, but I don't think he's someone that like he needs his Oscar for this performance.
That's fair.
At least from what I've heard.
That's fair.
Maybe that'll change when I see it. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to go with my number 4, and that number 4 is Dune 2.
Okay.
Dune 2, I feel a lot better about Dune 2 than I have now that the Joker reviews are out and they're pretty mixed to negative.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel like Joker 2 not being great is a huge benefit because they're both Warner Bros. They're both blockbuster sequels. Now what Dune 2 needs for me to really feel like there's a pretty sizable chance that it could actually win Best Picture is for Gladiator 2 to be bad. I think Gladiator 2 is bad or mediocre, like most of Ridley Scott's films have been as of late. Dune 2 will slide up to like number 2 for me.
Okay.
I feel like, because I think Gladiator 2 and Joker 2 would take votes away from it, but if they aren't taking votes away from Dune 2, then it is this kind of Goliath of a incredible blockbuster that is sitting in the way of all of these like smaller indie films.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think I'll have it at my number 1, but I do think it would have like a huge chance if Gladiator 2 turns out to be bad. But we won't get to find out until Thanksgiving.
Right.
So that's unfortunate. All right. And then my number 3 is Emilia Perez. Okay, so let me talk about Emilia Perez here, because you pointed out, like when it's a competitive year, the movie needs to be great and needs to have all great reviews. 2021, the winner was Coda.
True.
Reviews for that were not all great. People were like, oh, it's fine, it's Coda. And that's still how people talk about it. But it won Best Picture. Nomadland, kind of the same deal. Maybe people were saying it was a little, like, I think the talk around Nomadland was a little more positive than Coda was, but still, like, I think a lot of people thought Minari was better, or Judas and the Black Messiah, or Sound of Metal, but Nomadland was what won. Then going back, Green Book wins in 2018 over over The Favorite, over Roma, A Star Is Born, Vice, Bohemian Rhapsody, Black Klansman, and Black Panther. Green Book won. Shape of Water won the previous year over Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. A lot of times it seems like when it's really competitive, the mediocre mixed movies that are kind of a safer pick prevail. And weirdly, Emilia Perez to me feels like the safer pick. It's this musical, but it's giving representation in a way that the Oscars have never shed light to before. I feel like a lot of voters for the Oscars can be like, let us recognize Mexico. Let us recognize, the transgender community. And that's what this film would do. And it's also a musical, which is just a genre that I think has been pretty successful at the Oscars. And personally, I happen to really like most of the musical elements, aside from just a couple of them. But there's just so many musical elements, so I don't think it's a given that you have to like all of them. And I think this is Netflix's best chance to win Best Picture since Roma. Okay. I'm feeling pretty, decent about Emilia Perez, and maybe I'll be completely wrong, but I feel pretty good about it, given that, it got number 2 for People's Choice at TIFF. It's a movie that people are still really talking about and really loving, and yeah, some people think it's mediocre, but there's a lot of people who loved it, just like there were a lot of people that did love Coda, some people that did love Nomadland, some people that did love The Shape of Water. I don't know who would have loved Green Book, but I guess some people probably loved Green Book. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like it is kind of the real deal.
Well, because I kind of agree with everything you just said. I think it's also, though, well, yes, there is a track record for, in more contentious years, kind of a movie can rise to the top without being this knockout hit that everyone agrees is, the best movie of the year. The Oscars have completely shifted in the last few years to where, on top of just the voting body being different, you've had now 2 straight years of the frontrunner completely dominating and it being, for all intents and purposes, a kind of boring Oscar season because of that. Yeah. And so I really don't know what to expect, because this is really the first time since those major changes have been made that it is kind of left out in the open, and there are a bunch of movies vying for that top spot. Fair. I also do think you have bias just because you have seen it. Yes. Where I have bias for the movies that I've seen, but you've seen 3 of your top 4. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know, and that'll change once I see it.
Oh yeah, I have seen 3 of my top 4. I thought you said my top 10, and I was like, I've seen I think 4 of my top 10. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, my number 3 is Sing Sing.
Okay.
And I do agree with the narratives that it has been faltering a little. It's just, To me, at least, when I watched it, and maybe, again, it's biased because I've seen it, and so I had the opportunity to think about it as just a movie rather than where it stands in the Oscar race.
Yeah.
I just feel like it ticks so many boxes that I would be shocked if it wasn't, at the very least, somewhat contending in most of those. I feel like Colman Domingo for Best Actor is still my number one, just because I don't really see anyone right now who is above that. Could like Timothée Chalamet, Tom Hiddleston, Ray Fiennes, could all of these people get there? Sure. I just haven't seen it happen yet. I don't think we're there yet. And yes, The Brutalist being here and it being another A24 movie that's contending does maybe hurt Sing Sing. But I also think for me at least, there are a few things working against it. And yes, those same things there's other things working against Sing Sing. But I don't think the kind of bad release hurts it as much as you would think, because it's just a weird Oscar year. And I think there's room for movies to kind of stay in the Best Picture conversation, even if they traditionally wouldn't, because right now we kind of just don't know what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my bad argument for Sing Sing still being top 3. And then I got Dune 2 at number 2, which is like we've talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
It's Dune 2.
It is Dune 2.
I'm not even gonna say anymore.
Yeah.
It's like it's Dune 2.
Yeah.
It's here.
So we have the same number one.
That we do.
All right, so let me just say my number 2, and I think we should do the fun thing and say the number 1 together.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're convinced about my number 1 now.
I just put Dune instead of Dune 2.
That's
I just
beautiful.
wrote the word Dune twice.
So my number 2, if you can't already guess,
I know what
it's
is.
The Brutalist.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really good about The Brutalist. I think the argument about Killers of the Flower Moon, the comparison, I get it. My argument against that is that Oppenheimer and Killers were just such a similar genre, this period piece drama directed by like a great director of all time with some of the like just great actors of our time. You know, they were just so similar in what they were going for, in both over 3 hours, you know? So to me, it was just that Oppenheimer happened to be the more popular movie and edged out Killers of the Flower Moon. But if Oppenheimer wasn't there, I think Killers of the Flower Moon would have been a huge contender. And this year, I would say that The Brutalist is now in that situation with, you know, a little less controversy, because I do think that there was some controversy about how Martin Scorsese, a white dude, is directing a movie like about Native Americans and trying to be sympathetic towards Native Americans, and some people questioning if he's really the right guy to do that. I would say he was, given like how much care he put into directing the film and like how much he did try to communicate with the like Native American communities that the film took place in. But I do get the argument against that, just given that he is a white dude and didn't experience that type of prejudice ever in his life. So, you know, The Brutalist doesn't have that. It's a white dude directing a movie about a white dude who's an architect.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no controversy around that. And I also do have Adrian Brody as my number 1 at Best Actor. A lot of people are just saying this is the best performance of his career, and he has had a crazy good career. And a lot of people have like said, based on that this should win Best Actor. Like it should be a shoo-in, and which is kind of the opposite of what you've said that you have been hearing on, you know, film online. So I guess we're in 2 different corners of that. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think the way I could see it with Sing Sing and The Brutalist is Clarence Macklin winning supporting actor for Sing Sing, and then Adrian Brody winning Best Actor for The Brutalist. I don't think The Brutalist will get both Brody and Guy Pearce, and I don't think Sing Sing will get both Macklin and Domingo. I do see Macklin and Domingo like both getting it over Brody and Guy Pearce, but I do really I'm starting to see the narrative where it's going to be Clarence Macklin and Adrian Brody.
Really?
I feel like Macklin has more going for him, given that he was a prisoner in the situation. Personally, I kind of see him as like another best supporting actor shoe-in, which is kind of unfortunate because we've gotten so many shoe-ins for that award. But it's kind of what I'm feeling with him, especially now that Samuel L. Jackson is no longer a contender based on what people have said after the piano lesson.
Yeah.
So, anywho, like going back to the Brutalist, because I'm not talking about it anymore. It's this epic film. It's an American epic, and I think during an election year, during an Olympic year, an American epic could be something that plays very well for the Oscars, but will it win? We don't think so. All right, you wanna do it?
3,
2, 1. Anora! Woo! I'm so happy that you have it here now. I'm so happy you've bought into it. Yeah, it's Anora.
Yeah, you can talk about it because you've seen it, so you're more educated.
Yeah. It's funny, it's dramatic, it's emotional. It's got everything. It takes just these small human moments and is able to flesh them out in just some beautiful like ways. There's just so many intriguing interpersonal dynamics here, and the way that this film just unravels as it keeps going. There's one scene, it's like 20 minutes in the middle of the film in a house. That's all I really want to say about the scene like itself. But just wait till you see this movie, because that scene alone just flips the whole film on its head and is incredible. It just shows how fantastic of a director and writer Sean Baker is. This is his year to me. Won the Palme d'Or, despite only having 4 screenings at TIFF, got 3rd place in People's Choice, and now here it is. It's Oscar time. Got a lot of buzz out of Telluride, and yeah, like this is Anora's time, everybody. This is, and I think Anora is just, it's been my number one ever since seeing it, and it's not going to stop being my number one, probably literally for the rest of the year, unless some movie comes out, like, or one of these movies ends up being a dominating force, but I just don't see that happening. So, yeah. Do you have anything to add on?
That's kind of it.
That's kind of it,
man.
Well, sweet. We're almost an hour through recording, and the movie tournament itself was 2 hours. So this is a long episode, everybody. Let's dive into the box office for 1 second, just to talk about Speak No Evil. Speak No Evil made $11.5 million this weekend.
Cool.
I
need to update the
so you don't know if it's online with projections or not?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we don't know if that's online with projections or not, but it seems fine. I mean, it crossed the 10 million barrier that a lot of horror movies have struggled to cross this year, so good for Speak No Evil being to do that. I guess playing that trailer literally before every single movie for the past 6 months has worked, unlike Argyle. Did not work for Argyle.
Don't remind me.
I love being able to find a way to mention Argyle just like every few episodes. It's great. Oh, and then I also just wanted to talk about Speak No Evil because I actually liked it quite a bit.
I saw.
I thought it was pretty good. I don't like the original film. It has just such a bleak, dour, sad, unfortunate ending that seems to have sort of a take in terms of like human nature that I thoroughly disagree with. I just don't think that people would react to what was happening in that film in the way that they did in the film, and it really ticked me off. So, like, just the whole third act of the original Speak No Evil I wasn't a fan of, and I had a feeling they would give this new Speak No Evil the Hollywood treatment, and that's why they were making this film, and they would give it more of a Hollywood type of ending. And I thought that would work better for the film. That's exactly what they did. Okay. First half of this movie is kind of the same as the original Speak No Evil. And by the third act, it completely divulges from the original. And I liked the way that this movie unfolded so much better, even though it was a little cliche and predictable. There was some catharsis there, and just the ending to me made a lot more sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I liked it. Also, want to just talk about the #1 movie on Netflix right now, Rebel Ridge. Have you heard about Rebel Ridge?
I've seen it trending on Letterboxd.
It's really good.
Okay.
Or not like really, really good, but like surprisingly good. I watched it last night. It was directed by, what's his name? Saltier, someone Saltier. And he's directed a few like pretty good films. Hold on, I'm pulling up the director. Saulnier, that's it. Jeremy Saulnier is the director. He's directed Green Room, Blue Ruin, and Hold the Dark. Don't know. Have you heard of any of those movies? Okay, so you've seen Green Room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not seen any of his movies. This was the first one that I'd seen. It was just a really good time. The action was fantastic. Aaron Pierre gives just a really good performance with some amazing lines.
That's a mid-sized sedan from M. Night Shyamalan's Old, right?
Wait, what?
The rapper on the beach.
I mean, I guess. I don't remember the rapper on the beach.
Old.
I don't remember the rapper on the beach, but I guess so. Yeah, he isn't old. So, anywho, though, he has certain lines where he'll say something like completely badass on the phone and then turns to somebody and is like, sorry, did I have too much sauce in that? And just like the delivery is flawless. And God, I think he could become a movie star. He just has everything going for him in terms of like his cadence in this film and just the line delivery and everything. So I wanted to mention this movie because I highly recommend it. Every few months, Netflix just has like an absolute banger of a film. This is that movie.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Best movie I've seen on Netflix since Hitman. Yeah. I love how you knew.
Yeah.
And so just to end off, this weekend, we got a few movies coming out. You got Transformers 1 and The Substance in theaters. Both are supposed to be pretty good, but I mean, The Substance is The Substance, so we're going to be seeing that with an army of people, hopefully. Then there's Wolves coming out on Apple. It was supposed to come out in theaters, but that is no longer the case, unfortunately. Stars Brad Pitt and George Clooney reuniting the Ocean's 11 bros. Should be a fun time. Has a solid, 3.0, I think, on Letterboxd after it premiered at Venice, which I'd say is fine given how stingy the crowds can be at Venice in terms of some of these films. So I'm sure it'll end up getting to a 3.2 or something like that.
It is currently at a 3.2.
Oh, actually?
Yeah.
Okay, so then it'll probably get to 3.3, maybe.
Swag.
Okay, and then lastly is His Three Daughters, coming out on Netflix. Some people saw this as a potential Oscar contender, but I'm saying given the fact that it's coming out in September, that's not too likely.
Yeah.
And yeah, it stars Elizabeth Olsen, though. Supposed to be really good. I'm excited to watch it. And that's it.
Hype.
That was a lot.
Does a lot.
Before a 2-hour segment.
Yeah.
So I guess now to end off, we got to go to the movies in our Sweet 16 here.
I'm already here. Shall I read them?
Yes, you shall read them because I'm not
there.
there.
In our 2010s movie tournament Sweet 16 is Parasite, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, La La Land, The Lego Movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Gone Girl, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Creed, Whiplash, Prisoners, Get Out, Black Swan, The Social Network, Knives Out, Inception, and The Favorite.
Yeah, this was a really fun time.
Very much.
So, gonna be a lot of fun, hopefully for you all as you listen to it. So, we'll see you on that flip side, and then we'll see you next week to talk about The Substance.
The Substance.
I think that's our October movie auction.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
Already?
Yeah.
So soon?
Very soon.
Okay.
I feel like we just did our September one.
There's no way.
Well, there is.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Apparently.
All right. I'm down.
I'm down too. All right. So we'll see you next week for the October movie auction. We'll see you in 2 sections for the tournament. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And here we are for the final round of our movie tournament. This is our Sweet 16 round. It's going to be a very contentious one.
Very emotional, I think.
Emotional. Gonna cry. We're all gonna cry.
So heartbreaking.
Yeah. A lot of... I don't think there's a single movie in here for me that's below 4.5 stars.
There is only one movie in here that is below 4.5
Oh, actually,
stars.
never mind. There's also only one movie in here for me that's also below 4.5 stars.
We like all these, though.
Yes.
Is the point.
Yeah.
There is no movie below 4.5 stars
Really?
for me.
Wow.
I love.
All right.
Yeah, I love all these.
That's awesome. No, I'm glad. So Yeah, I guess let's dive in quickly. We wanted to do some honorable mentions. So how about we go around in a circle? Just name one at a time.
Okay.
All
You
right.
want to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'll kick it off with Uncut Gems.
All right.
Uncut Gems had a interesting story here. Got knocked out by the Lego Movie in the first round. Very unfortunate matchup for Uncut Gems, facing a Sweet 16 movie in the first round.
Bro, you voted against it.
I did.
You voted against it, Cup.
But I would have voted for Uncut Gems against most of the other movies there. And I think I would pick Uncut Gems over one of the movies in the Sweet 16.
Okay.
Here.
Swag.
Yeah, or at least yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
I'll go next if that's cool.
Okay.
What I think is the biggest, not gonna say upset, but like just biggest travesty of this whole thing. Blade Runner 2049 got kicked out first round.
Yeah.
And a 2-1 vote against Creed, which like Creed did make it to the Sweet 16, and I've kind of taken it on as the surrogate Blade Runner 2049, but like that's crazy to me because 2049 is one of my favorite movies of the decade.
No, that's fair. Yeah, that was a very hard matchup.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon.
So my honorable mentions would be first Lady Bird.
Nice.
Just an amazing coming-of-age story that just it went up against just another really phenomenal film that we just had to vote it over. But love Lady Bird, really wholesome.
Nice. All right, so my next one I'm going to go with is Force Awakens.
All right.
Force Awakens got 3-0'd by Lady Bird, so really tough KO for that one, but it's a really solid Star Wars movie in my opinion, and I think it just had a very unfortunate first round matchup, and I think I wish it was a bit of a higher seed so it could have had a better matchup, but sadly it was pit against Lady Bird.
Fair. My next honorable mention is Ex Machina, which also got kicked out first round against Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's not 5 stars for me, but it's very close, and that was very upsetting seeing it go so soon.
Yeah.
My second honorable mention would be Midsommar, just an amazing horror movie, one of the best of the decade, with fantastic performance from Florence Pugh. Just went up against another excellent film.
That's fair.
Yep.
Notable absence of the Sweet 16 is Django Unchained, which is going to be my next pick. Another unfortunate victim to the Lego Movie. Yeah, Django is a fantastic film. It is really wonderful. Definitely the best Tarantino movie that was on this bracket. And it's just really unfortunate that it got that matchup against the Lego Movie because it's a tough matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My next honorable mention is Booksmart, which has the distinction of being the only, to me, 5-star movie that got 3-0'd in round 1. It hurt, but like it went against the favorites in the Sweet 16. It was just not primed for success.
My third honorable mention would be Birdman, just an amazing technical achievement and an amazing story that just unfortunately could not get in. But I think it is one of the best of the 2010s in terms of probably direction and cinematography.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What might be one of my favorite movies in Martin Scorsese's filmography is The Wolf of Wall Street. I think this might have been the best movie he'd made since Goodfellas at that point, until it got overtaken by Killers of the Flower Moon, in my humble opinion.
In your humble opinion.
And it lost to Prisoners in the round of 32, which was a sad moment for me. I was really gunning for Wolf, but you guys were really gunning for Prisoners, and you know that passion has gotten Prisoners as far as it has, so good job doing that, guys. But yeah, Wolf is just such a great maximalist, flashy film, and it's too bad it couldn't be in the Sweet 16.
Yeah. My number 4 honorable mention, I'm doing like a little joint thing. The 2 movies that lost to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, those being Nightcrawler and Moneyball. Nightcrawler having the distinction of being the first 3-0 upset in the first round that we had. Both just really great, and unfortunately for me at least, because I preferred Dawn just slightly more, I voted against both of them, which really hurt.
Yeah.
And I kind of regret it a little bit, but oh well.
Oh, well.
My fourth honorable mention is Her. I just think this is an amazing movie, amazing sci-fi romance that unfortunately went up against the favorite. I still think The Her is better than the favorite, even on a second watch, but no shade to the favorite there.
I'm gonna go with, for my last honorable mention, let's take Marriage Story here. I love Marriage Story, and I'm not even a child of divorce, so isn't that saying something?
Be enjoyed by anyone.
Yeah, it can be enjoyed by anyone. But it made it all the way to the round of 32, pitted up against Grand Budapest Hotel. I would still pick Marriage Story over Budapest, but I get why it lost here. I just think that Marriage Story is such a powerful and moving and emotionally riveting film.
Fair.
Yeah.
My final slot, I'm doubling up again with the Ethan favorites of Climax and The Lighthouse. Both fantastic. Both like probably top 10 movies of the decade for me. They both made it to the round of 64 and then got taken out by Skyfall and Scott Pilgrim respectively. They had good runs. I'm happy they made it at least one round.
If I knew that I could double up, I would have doubled up on the Lego Movie victims.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine.
And my last honorable mention is Jojo Rabbit, one of my personal favorite movies that I love with my heart. And then in the first round, my heart was completely broken when you both chose Climax over it.
Yeah.
Very sorry about that.
Sorry, Brenda.
Yeah. Did we not have any overlap?
No.
That's crazy.
Well, I had some overlap, but I just deleted it off of
Okay,
my
all
list
right.
of like 10. Like I had Blade Runner on there, and
Okay,
then
you had
picked
more ready
Blade
to go,
Runner.
though.
Yeah, and
All
I had
right.
Moneyball on there, and then you picked Moneyball, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
I should have figured you were going to have Moneyball on yours.
yeah, I did have Moneyball,
Okay.
but that's okay. I had like 10. So
All right.
that's okay.
Before we get going and reveal the new way that we are going to be voting this round, I do want to list off a couple fun stats.
Okay.
Because we have disagreed a lot, and I think it has made for some of the most fun content that we have had on What the Film.
Yes.
And I just want to share with our listeners some of those stats. We have disagreed a lot. The best performance in a single round throughout this tournament so far has been Logan. In week 1, he went 13-2 for being on the right side of those disagreements. The worst performance in a single round is also by Logan in week 4, when he went 4-6 because all of his favorites got eliminated what felt like very quickly.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That was a sad time.
Yes.
Sad episode.
Overall records, the best is Brendan with 70%, the worst is me with 64%, and then Logan's in the middle with 66%. And in terms of our Sweet 16, just in terms of like what years are being represented most, number 1 is 2014 with 4 movies, followed behind that with 3 movies from 2010 and 2019, and then 2011 and 2012 have nothing.
Wow.
Completely unrepresented.
Remember when you said that we didn't have enough 2010 movies? I remember you telling me that.
I felt like we weren't going to, and then a lot of them just made it really far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
good for us, though,
yeah,
for getting them through.
I also think it's just interesting that movies are getting through that we weren't like alive during. Or not? No, we were alive.
We weren't into
but
film.
We
then.
weren't like conscious enough to be into these films when they were having their pop culture moments in
Right.
like the film community. But regardless, we've picked up on that.
Yeah. And then there are 2 directors with more than one movie in the Sweet 16, those being Damien Chazelle with Whiplash and La La Land, and David Fincher with The Social Network and Gone Girl.
The DA boys,
Yeah.
Damien and David.
All right. Logan, explain how we are doing the voting.
Yeah, so here's how we're going to be doing the voting. So before we just voted on like our first movie, like the movie that we liked the most, just gave all of our power to it, you know, and then we voted on just like it would be 3-0, 2-1, whatever it was. Now we each get 3 picks essentially, and you get to allocate those picks to the movies kind of at your leisure. So I'm just going to use Parasite and Midsommar again as an example. So that was a matchup that we had at the round of 32 in our first episode. I would have given Parasite 3-0, but I could have given Parasite 2-1 or
I would
Midsommar
have given
2-1.
Parasite 2-1.
Yeah. So
So-
then it would have been 5-1, and then Brendan, what would you have given it?
Probably 3-0.
3-0.
Okay.
Okay, so it would have been an 8-1 Parasite, like just domination over Midsommar. But essentially, that's how it works.
Yes.
It provides a chance for people that are really passionate about a movie to be able to just, that passion will matter a little more. And I think it can also just show when movies, sure, like before they won 3-0, but it probably wouldn't have been a domination. It would have been more like a 6-3 win rather than like a 9-0 win technically.
Yeah.
So we're doing this to kind of show that.
Also, just to give more votes to these movies,
Yeah.
just because like on our little spreadsheet where we write down what the voting history is, I don't know, big numbers. I want all these great movies to have big numbers next to them.
So the way that we're also doing this is we are typing on our phones per individual matchup how we want it to go. So
This is essentially because we are so passionate about this that the honor code is not enough.
Yeah.
And we need to hold each other accountable so that nobody gets screwed over by like a last minute decision.
Exactly. So what we're doing is right before we start discussing, we're typing up our thoughts, like our vote on the movie, and then we're putting our phone down on the table, and then once it's our turn to speak, we're going to lift up our phone for the others to see as we announce our take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, are you ready to
I'm
get
ready to get
rocking and
started.
rolling?
Yeah.
I'm
Ready to
too.
go.
All right, well, phones down on the
Phones
table.
down.
The first time of
Okay.
15. All right. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
You'll go first
We
because
have-
you want to lift your phone up?
Yeah, we have Parasite versus Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and this was the first matchup of the Sweet 16 that we knew was happening, and it has held as potentially one of the most interesting matchups.
Yeah.
Where they are the only two foreign films in the Sweet 16.
Yep, both 2019
Both
films
came
too.
out late 2019. Were probably at that time my two favorite movies of the year. And I love them. We haven't even really talked about Parasite at all.
Yeah. Because it's just dominated.
It's just completely dominated everything it's gone against. I love it. It's one of the most perfect movies I think I've ever seen. Just the way Bong Joon-ho's direction is incredible, where I have a tough time kind of classifying it as any one genre, because like it's a social satire with comedic elements, but it's also kind of a drama. There's a lot of thriller bits like in the middle and towards the end.
Yeah.
It just has so many different moving parts going on. The editing is incredible. Like the classical score is beautiful, and I think highlights those great editing scenes even more. The ensemble is fantastic. There's really nobody in particular that I would highlight as like the best performance. It's just kind of everyone like firing off.
Yeah, seriously.
Obviously that switch at the midpoint is like
crazy.
When I saw that for the first time, I couldn't even, not that I couldn't pay attention, but I was just like so locked in that I was like, what is gonna happen? And yeah, I've seen this 8 times, I think. I haven't seen it since 2020. I was gonna rewatch it for this, but like I already know my thoughts on it. I feel like I didn't need to.
I rewatched it.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it in theaters like 5 times, I think. 3 in its initial run, and then 2 when they re-released it before the Oscars. And like Parasite's Oscar moment is one of my favorite times of like being a film fan since I have gotten into film. Just the collective Bong Hive was just...
It was awesome.
It was incredible. Yeah. Like it is truly one of just the best things the Academy has done of just giving it the love it deserves. And on the other hand, there's Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which we have talked about a lot already. And I love it too. It's a much slower paced film than Parasite, which I think is really the big distinction.
Yeah.
Where it takes its time, it's much more meditative. And also I would probably say that the screenplay is its best aspect, because you fall less in love with the characters specifically and more just their relationship and how that develops. And it's really tough because they are so similar, but they're also so different. And I'm gonna now hold up my phone to reveal. I'm giving it to Parasite 2-1 here.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like Parasite is just the more perfect movie to me, but Portrait of a Lady on Fire just hits me so hard emotionally. And between the cinematography, the acting, and the screenplay, it's also just too good to not give a vote to.
No, that's fair. All right, I'll go next. I rewatched Parasite, and I did really enjoy it on a rewatch. It holds up so well, and just really, it's a movie firing on all cylinders, and it's just, I don't want to say it's a maximalist film, but it kind of feels like a maximalist film, but it does have a lot of really quaint moments, and you do really fall in love with this family despite them not necessarily being the best people, but you also understand why they're not necessarily the best people because society is just not the best for them. And it's just a very intelligent film, so well thought out, and introduced me to South Korean filmmaking, which is a culture of filmmaking that I do want to watch more, but every time I go to visit it, I love it. With that being said, Portrait of a Lady on Fire is this beautiful, quaint movie. It's the kind of movie that you can just like hang out with. I just feel like I can keep going back to it. It's a movie that hasn't left my mind ever since I initially watched it back in 2020. Sadly, I wasn't able to rewatch it for the podcast. I was like starting it, and then all of a sudden I got a bunch of work that I had to do, and I wasn't able to go back to it. But it's just a film that I still really connect with that experience. So I'm giving it a 2-1 for Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
All right.
Meaning that we're going to be tying it up at a good old, what is it? Yeah, 3-3. So Brendan.
Oh, dear.
I'm guessing he's going to go with Parasite.
I mean, we'll see. He rewatched Portrait.
I did. Yeah, these are two different films, and that one has not left my mind in the past 5 years, whereas the other completely left my mind and had to give it a rewatch to think about it more. Mm-hmm. Parasite is, I think, just one of the best films I've ever seen. I love it so much. It's just a beautiful balance of different genres that creates so many different emotions. There's comedy, there's suspense, there's drama, there's horror, just so many exciting sequences. One of my favorite midpoints in film. It just, once that second half starts, it's like, what is going on? Mm-hmm. Such a beautiful story. And yeah, like you said about the characters, there's no good or evil. There's just characters that you understand what they're doing. They're put in difficult circumstances and they have to make choices that to get out of it, whether it's likable or not, or whether it's the right choice or not. Yeah. And then Portrait of a Lady on Fire, it's a movie that I watched 5 years ago, completely left my mind to the point where the past 4 episodes
I voted against
it,
we had
unfortunately.
To team up, me and Logan every time.
Thank God we did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but now I'm rewatched it, and now I am completely different on it to the point where I would have voted for it. I do see now how it's an amazing, phenomenal film. Like, I remembered the story points, like from beginning to end, but I didn't remember the emotions I felt, or I didn't have a great day and just wasn't connected to it, but now I was. I think Portrait is a gripping love story with beautiful locations, just a small cast of characters, but you really get to know them, get to feel their struggles. Yeah. Like, the first time I watched it, I was kind of thinking at the end, I'm like, okay, that was fine. But now the second time, kind of understanding the story more and kind of my taste in film changing and like being open to these slower stories, I was just like, wow, that was really good. So I am movie. I wish I could have given Portrait of a Lady on Fire over a film for one of these rounds, but unfortunately it's going up against Parasite. So I have to give it Parasite 2-1.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
At least it was close.
It was so close.
It was very close because, once again, it's not a shade to Portrait. It's just, I think Parasite is just like top tier. It's just phenomenal on all levels.
That's totally
It's hard. It's a movie that's hard to beat.
All right. Well,
so Parasite advances to the Elite Eight 5-4.
It does. So now,
are they all going to be that tense? I hated that.
I guess we'll find out. You know, it's going to be a little scary.
Yeah.
Next up is La La Land versus the Lego Movie. So let's type up those responses real quick. I mean, this is going to be a fun one. Okay.
All right.
I can start.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So Damien Chazelle has got to be, if not my favorite director, like top 3. He is just so up there for me. I've loved. Granted, I still need to watch First Man. I still need to.
You don't need to watch.
No, but
I would recommend watching First Man.
It's good.
As somebody who loves every other Damien Chazelle movie, I feel like it's disrespectful to then not watch First Man. I also do love me some good Ryan Gosling.
Who doesn't?
And I'm figuring he's good in First Man. So you get a lot of good Ryan Gosling in this movie. You get a lot of good Emma Stone. They work so well together. Their chemistry is really off the charts. I remember getting to watch this in the Park Auditorium last semester.
I wish I could have been there for that.
That was an amazing
It was a great
experience.
experience.
Getting to watch La La Land in there with like a genuine crowd, like closest thing you could really get to watching it in an actual movie theater. I mean, you might as well be like actually watching it in a movie theater because it's a college lecture hall essentially.
Yeah.
And like it's beautiful and the music is amazing. With that being said, no song in La La Land is like everything is awesome. I see Ethan frowning over there.
I'm just going to wait till it's my turn.
Not saying that everything is awesome is better than any song in La La Land. It's not. I love the Lego movie so much. It's a movie I grew up on. It's a movie that I've just always connected with on such a deep level. I grew up on Legos. I grew up on this film. And there's just something about the creativity with the Lego animation here that really just caught to me. And I love it a lot. It's a movie that I've watched a lot lately, and it just gets better every single time. And whenever somebody's like, oh, what's like your just movie that like somebody at like there was a thing at DK, a society that Brendan and I are a part of, and it was a question when we were like reintroducing our names and whatnot that we were asked, which was, if somebody has never seen a movie before, what is the movie that you would have them watch? And people thought I was joking when I said the Lego Movie as my answer. I was not joking. This is a film that just kind of tries to dive into so many different aspects of pop culture and explores them and explores a bit of capitalism, capitalism.
It's a metaphor for capitalism.
It really is, and I appreciated that. And I appreciated this film a lot. It explores a big father-son dynamic that I could relate to, and yeah, so I'm giving the Lego Movie a 2-1 win over La La Land. Could not 3-0 Lego Movie.
Okay.
That would have been very disingenuous.
That would have been crazy.
You're gonna 3-0 La La Land though.
Oh, you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go next, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen. The Lego Movie is really good. I really enjoy it. It's fun. I think I missed the Lego Movie train. I didn't grow up with it. I watched it. I didn't see it in theaters. I watched it like maybe a year or two after it came out at home. And it was the only time that I watched it until last week when we watched it at like 3 a.m, whenever that was. And so I just don't have any nostalgia attached to it. And it just, like, it resonates, I guess, but not on this profound emotional level that it seems to for you guys. And it's upsetting because I want it to. Like, I want to love every movie. But unfortunately, I only just like it. And so for there to not be any Pixar movies in the Sweet 16, and for, like, literally in the next matchup we have Into the Spider-Verse, it's like, the animation looks great. It looks fantastic. But it's not, like, so mind-bogglingly good that I'm just, like, captivated and doing, like, big goo-goo eyes because it looks so great. And then you've got La La Land, which I didn't see in theaters because it was back in 2016 when I was too cool for musicals.
Yeah, me too.
Of course.
Because I remember my grandma took my sister to see it because, like, she was a girl and musicals were for girls, and as a boy I couldn't watch a musical.
My whole family went, and they asked if I wanted to go with them, and I'm like, nah.
Oh, I wasn't even offered.
It's called La La Land. I don't have time for that. And I'm, like, so upset about that because I also didn't see it in the Park Auditorium. But, like, I watched it early on when I was getting into film, really loved it, but then went years without watching it, totally forgot how good it was. And in the last, like, 2 years, I've rewatched it multiple times, and it's become an all-time favorite. And like you said, Damien Chazelle, I don't have a favorite director's list. He's probably, like, top 5 for me. Mm-hmm. Just everything visually about how this looks, the music is incredible. It's, like, one of the few... It's probably the only, like, musical movie soundtrack that I actually go back and listen to just on its own. Emma Stone is fantastic. Ryan Gosling is his performance is fantastic. And I feel like you forget how it really is just the two of them. Like, other than John Legend, who shows up for 10, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
it's basically just them the whole time. But their chemistry is so phenomenal. And it's possibly the most attached I have ever gotten to any characters in just, like, a one-off movie. Like, I fell for both of them so hard when their relationship doesn't work out. It's devastating.
Yeah.
But also you kind of know it's not going to, and, like, it makes sense why it doesn't.
Yeah.
So you're upset, but you're accepting of it, and the ending is perfect. I think we said this before. Damien Chazelle just knows how to end a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, goddamn.
He does.
We'll get on to more of that later. But yeah, this is a very easy 3-0 La La Land. I'm not even going to hold up my phone. You knew this was happening.
Yeah, I knew this was happening.
Brendan.
I'm the tiebreaker once again.
You are.
Very hard because these are two all-time favorite movies that are really close to me, and I have to choose one or the other.
Well, you'd have to 3-0 Lego Movie.
Oh, we'll have to 3-0. Well, I have to give
Lego
one more point to the other, which is a little sad because I think these are both some of the best films of the decades in their respective genres. La La Land, just extremely beautiful, one of the most beautiful and wholesome movies ever to me. I still remember the theater experience. I guess I'm the only one that saw it in the theater that was like, this is not a girl movie. This is a musical. This is a big award contender. Let's go see La La Land, whole family. Just a fantastic experience that I still remember. Same local movie theater I saw Lego Movie in. So they're both fantastic movies that I remember my first time experience. I just loved the music. I loved the songs so much. I could gush about them any day. And the romance between Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling is perfect. Really love these characters. Just love how their relationship develops. And then the Lego Movie, one of the personal favorites, maybe one of the most rewatchable movies that I've seen. I love all the characters. The Lego Movie is a story about creativity, and I think that's what makes it so great. Like, I feel like people saw the trailer when it released and didn't think it was going to be that very good. But then Lord and Miller and the whole team, they just made an extremely brilliant story about creativity and family and just put in 100 jokes. There's just so many iconic lines I could constantly quote.
Every line is quotable.
Yeah.
Every line in this movie is somewhat quotable.
The double-decker couch, Taco Tuesday, everything's just iconic.
Just all of what Morgan Freeman is doing.
Yes.
Everything Morgan Freeman is doing, it may sound like a cat poster, but it's true. So yeah, both fantastic films, but I have to give one or the other. So I'm going La La Land 2 and the Lego Movie 1. Just, the Lego Movie is amazing, but I wouldn't give it that edge to La La Land because nothing in the Lego Movie did give me the emotions as it did for me seeing the epilogue.
Yeah.
At the very end. Just that entire sequence. Just one of my favorite scenes in film.
And with
that,
that the Lego Movie has been eliminated 6-3, and my year has been made.
It's had a great run.
It has.
It had
it's
a great run.
Incredible run.
Yeah.
Incredible run. I'm happy.
I'm proud of you
we
guys
got
for
it here.
sticking to your guns.
Let's go.
Being passionate about what you're passionate about.
Yeah. We got to move on. Next matchup, Spider-Verse, Gone Girl. Put down your votes.
Putting down.
And we're going to get
my
started.
votes.
I think Brendan should go first
I
this
think
time.
Brendan should go first too.
Spider-Man and Spider-Verse is my favorite superhero movie of this decade. Maybe favorite superhero movie of all time.
All right.
It's a little tough because this is great, and also Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, just both excellent. I think such a great story of kind of introducing Miles Morales as Spider-Man, but then also having Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, that's just as compelling, and Gwen Stacy, that's also equally as compelling. Like, the Spider-Man movies are known for not balancing multiple characters previously, but this movie balances 3 great protagonists along with the great supporting cast and a really great villain. Such beautiful animation that has kind of changed a lot how most animated movies are kind of made nowadays. It's kind of changed up their creative angle, and yeah, how they look is very different now, and that's a part of it is thanks to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I believe. like the "What's Up Danger" scene,
Oh
a
my
top
God.
scene
yeah.
in film,
Yeah.
just beautiful. So many iconic lines. Like
Mm-hmm.
Phil Lord and Miller, they produced this, and I believe Phil Lord co-wrote this. Just another iconic lines. The shoulder touch, just
Yeah.
amazing. So many great action scenes. Such a great story about how Miles kind of learns to become a hero. Like he learns great power comes great responsibility without ever it being really said that much, or at least it's not really said to him that much, but he kind of learns that message in his own way, and learns to take leaps of faith and learns to kind of build a better future for himself. Just phenomenal. And I do love Gone Girl. I also love Gone Girl. Excellent thriller. I watched this for the first time this summer, and that kind of midpoint twist was so fun to see.
Yeah.
Such a great performances from Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike. They're such great characters. I love this screenplay that kind of everything kind of slowly unravels. Like that's what I love of stories is that not everything has to be revealed right away. You can kind of mislead the audience and kind of tell your story, but then once stuff is revealed, everything changes, and it's really great. It's really thrilling. It was really suspenseful. And yeah, David Fincher's direction, just phenomenal. Like watching this and Social Network very close to each other, you can just tell how well he can direct actors and do tight editing.
He was in his bag.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So,
So,
how'd you vote, Brendan?
I do love Gone Girl, but I don't love it as much as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so I'm giving it 3-0.
Oh, wow.
Dang.
Okay.
Just,
That
I
is
mean,
a
no
good
shade to Gone Girl. Fantastic. One of Fincher's best, but it doesn't beat Into the Spider-Verse for
That's
me.
fair.
Fair.
Well, I guess Ethan's looking at me.
Do you want to go next? Do you want me to go next?
I can go next.
All right.
I feel like Spider-Verse has already won.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, I love Into the Spider-Verse. I grew up with the film. I really connected to it. I feel very similarly in terms of my nostalgia for it as I do to the Lego Movie, but this is a more serious film. It really introduced me to the power of like animation, especially for comic book movies. And for the longest time, I thought I was going to 3-0 Spider-Verse over Gone Girl.
Okay.
Then I rewatched Gone Girl. And oh my God.
So good.
It is just incredible. The way that it just slowly unravels is just wild. It is a wild ride of a film. And I knew that it was going to be that, but getting to relive that was just awesome. I mean, I rewatched it, so we began rewatching it, but then we weren't able to finish it. So then I picked it back up the next morning.
Okay. So you finished it.
I finished it.
Okay.
But like literally the second I woke up, that is what I did. I was
right.
like, okay, now I'm here. I'm rewatching Gone Girl, and I did not like look away from the screen as I finished it. It was just. It's a 2.5 hour film, but it feels really like tight.
It goes so
yet
quick.
It has so many quaint moments, and that's the thing with Fincher's movies. They can be long, but they go by so quickly, and it's like, where did the time go? So with that being said, I'm giving Gone Girl a 2-1 win.
Ooh.
Wow.
So
All right.
I'm still figuring that Spider-Verse has won.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I am giving Gone Girl 2-1.
Yeah, so this was a really tough one. And looking at it, I was bouncing back and forth. I knew I was going to do 2-1 in some direction.
Yeah.
But I didn't know which because, like, I think Gone Girl is the cool pick. Spider-Verse is the basic pick. No offense to you, Brendan, I guess. But, like, they're both so good.
Yeah.
And it was tough for me because Spider-Verse is a movie I think I have some more history with. I saw it when it came out in theaters back in 2018. Gone Girl, I don't think I watched for the first time till like 2021. And I was leaning Gone Girl. And then we had that weird thing where we watched like the first hour of it. And then I didn't go back and finish it. It didn't hurt my opinions of Gone Girl at all. I want to make that disclaimer. It's not like I had a weird viewing experience and then decided, nah, I'm going to give it to Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
But like just for me, even though I do like Across more, and so I can make the argument that like this is not peak Spider-Verse, I think having rewatched The Social Network recently too, reaffirmed that like Fincher, while yes in his bag with Gone Girl, he is the perfectionist director.
Yeah.
And even though Gone Girl is so airtight and the pacing is perfect, and you're looking at everything Nick is doing and being like, you're such an idiot, you're under investigation for the disappearance of your wife, what are you doing, you fool? And then you're suddenly rooting for him in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
I love how it plays with just audience investment, but I think for me, because I personally just think The Social Network is a more perfect, airtight movie. And I think Spider-Verse, while yes, Across went bigger and in my opinion better with it, I think just on its own, it's still completely revolutionary for animation, for superhero movies, for coming-of-age stories. And so dorky phone reveal, I'm giving it to Spider-Verse 2-1. Which means that Spider-Verse wins.
Can I interrogate your vote a little bit?
You can interrogate my vote.
It felt very contradictory.
Really?
In the sense where you were like, I'm going to judge Gone Girl based on Social Network, but not judge Into the Spider-Verse on Across the Spider-Verse.
That's just how I pick it apart, though. That is how I looked at them. I couldn't separate Gone Girl from other Fincher movies.
But how could you then separate Into the Spider-Verse from its sequel?
I don't, because its sequel isn't this decade, so it's not like on the bracket as an active competitor against it.
That is fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I love them both. I think also because like Spider-Verse versus Lady Bird in the round of 32, I love Lady Bird to death, but I knew I was picking Spider-Verse. Gone Girl versus Moonlight, even currently, I have Moonlight at 5 stars and Gone Girl at 4.5. And I don't regret picking Gone Girl. It was just like a very spur of the moment decision.
Yeah.
Where like it barely even got here.
That's fair.
Like it needed my vote there and it almost didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really close though. I do love them both.
All right. So we're moving on. Next matchup, we got the Grand Budapest Hotel up against Creed.
Yes. Can I just give a fun stat?
Yes.
So far, our 3 entrants into the Elite 8 are 2 1 seeds and a 2 seed. I really like that. I don't know.
But that means like there's no underdogs. I feel like we need an underdog.
You like a story.
I do.
You like a story in the bracket.
I do like a story in the bracket.
Okay. We are talking about stories, so it would be a good story if we had an underdog.
It would be.
Okay.
So who wants to start for this?
Not me.
I think you should.
I don't want to.
All right. Well, I think Brendan then.
Okay.
So once again, 2 favorites going up against each other. So it's very hard. One of the best Rocky movies versus one of Wes Anderson's best movie. I loved rewatching The Grand Budapest Hotel. Just a phenomenal story. That's just like Wes Anderson's best films. A great ensemble cast of characters. A very fast-paced story. An excellent score. Really great comedy, but also a really great dramatic plot line with the characters, especially with Ray Fiennes. And I'm forgetting the actor's name, but the actor that plays Tony Revolori. Yes, thank you.
Zero.
Yeah, Zero. Just a fantastic story with that. It's beautiful production design, some of the best camera work, and just use of setting I've seen. Very beautiful locations, and a really airtight story that's a story within a story within a story. That seems confusing, but it's really well done, and I think it adds a lot of meaning to it. Mm-hmm. Then we have Creed, which I think, like Blade Runner 2049, is an excellent legacy sequel that introduces a new protagonist while having the previous main character in a just as compelling supporting role, and continues the story in a really unique way. And Creed is just one of an all-time favorites. I remember watching it for the first time in theaters. I remember wanting to watch it again when it was on rental. I remember really wanting Sylvester Stallone to win that Oscar, and then he didn't, and that was very sad. I remember listening to the montage music, going on runs, and just being motivated to run faster. I love this story so much. I think Ryan Coogler's direction is excellent here. So many well-directed fights, so many great drama scenes. Like Michael B. Jordan's story of becoming a great boxer while trying to build his own legacy is just as compelling as Rocky, who's in the sidelines, not really boxing anymore, but like kind of taking a mentorship role and kind of finding life after his career and moving on with his cancer treatment.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to give it, just because it's an all-time favorite, I'm going to have to give Creed 2-1 to Grand Budapest.
Okay.
That's fair.
I'll go next.
You'll go next?
I'll go next. There are a couple things about Creed I want to talk about because we haven't talked about them yet, which is crazy because I feel like we've talked about Creed more than a lot of other movies here, just because it had such an uphill battle to get to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
One, I just want to reiterate, we did talk about this. The fight scene in the middle where it's like the one take.
Incredible.
So cool.
Oh my
Incredible.
God.
Like, low-key, one of the coolest scenes of the decade.
Maybe the coolest scene of the
It's
decade.
up there. Yeah, I love that. And then the other two things. One, Michael B. Jordan and Tessa Thompson are so good together.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't like talk about the romantic subplot at all, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really well handled. And I feel like in sports movies, that can tend to drag them down a little.
Yeah.
Because you care more about the sports than the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Here, that's not the case at all. And I love them together. And anytime it was them just talking and
Mm-hmm.
vibing, like give me more of that.
And I'm glad that we got it in this movie because we haven't really gotten it back in the other Creed movies.
It kind of
which
lost
is really
it because it wanted to
unfortunate.
commit more to the boxing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing, which is the great plot point that nobody talks about, which is the fight in the third act where it's Adonis versus Ricky Conlon. Ricky Conlon is going to prison and has to basically retire early because of that. The fight doesn't actually matter. It's just kind of like a farewell fight for him. And that's the reason this is even happening, which I think just emphasizes the end even more than if it was a fight that actually mattered.
Well,
where
it
it's-
was. I would counter that and say it was a fight that mattered because he picked Creed since Creed was supposed to be a very easy win. He was supposed to be going out on a very high note.
Well, that's what I think. It's like,
Okay,
like
I
kind of
thought you were
as a
saying-
farewell fight.
I thought you were saying it was just didn't matter for anyone, and I was like,
No,
oh,
like
okay.
it's not. I don't even know how to phrase it. It was a farewell fight. It wasn't just like some boxer, and it's some trivial match. Like it was supposed to be conclusive for him, and so the fact that Creed holds his ground, even if he does lose in the end, I think just makes that sort of motivational story all the more powerful.
Yeah.
With that said, I'm giving it to Grand Budapest Hotel 3-0. And it hurts because I do love Creed, but I re-listened to two things before we are recording this now. One was our last episode of this tournament, where we recap every movie in the Sweet 16. And Logan, you listed a lot of directors with movies that are here. You mentioned David Fincher, you mentioned Bong Joon-ho, Damien Chazelle, all of those great directors, and you mentioned Ryan Coogler. And I'm not mad at you for mentioning Ryan Coogler, but when I think of like the great 2010s directors, Coogler for me, unfortunately, just in no way hits that mark. And I think the Grand Budapest Hotel for Wes Anderson is for the 2010s easily his best movie. And I think just comparing it from a stylistic directorial standpoint, Grand Budapest Hotel just towers over Creed so hard for me, where like comedically it is insane.
It is.
Visually it's wild. The other thing I went back and listened to my Wes Anderson ranking for Pop Off with Riley. Love you, Riley Friedman. And when we were talking about Grand Budapest Hotel, like it wasn't my number one, it wasn't his number one, it was a collective number two. But like for me, I like Fantastic Mr. Fox more, but I think the fact that Grand Budapest Hotel is in live action makes it so much more impressive, where it's like I just genuinely don't know how this was shot. It just looks so cool. And I think the pacing as like this hilarious crime caper with all of these characters, this incredible ensemble led by Ray Fiennes, I think everyone is just operating on all cylinders, kind of similar to Parasite, where they're just, for me, there is not a single element of this movie that is below standard in any way. And I think while I do love Creed, it just, for me, is a less perfect movie. And so I am giving it to Grand Budapest Hotel 3-0.
So I got to rewatch Grand Budapest. I really wanted to rewatch it because I was really like down on it. It was kind of similar to how Brendan was down on Portrait. I was down on Grand Budapest.
To less an extent, but like still a little bit.
Yeah. I got to rewatch it. It was great. It was awesome. I watched it in a dorm room, on a projector, on a wall, while playing Wes Anderson bingo.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a great like combination of all of those things. And it was such a fun experience. It's such a fun movie. And it's so just artistically clever and genius. Like I really do appreciate the work that Wes Anderson put into that film. And he is a great, great director. But Creed. I adore Creed. Creed is one of the films that got me to love filmmaking from the beginning. It's a film that I really just connected with. I'm very nostalgic for this film. It's a pop culture type of film. It had a big moment. It's just a great film. I think this is the best movie in the entire Rocky franchise, in my opinion. And I don't even think that that's a hot take, which is kind of wild. And I think Ryan Coogler is just totally one of the best directors of the 2010s, not only because he's made some great films in that decade, but also because he blended great films with commercial filmmaking. He was able to put the two together in a way where he made films that not only really connected with general audiences, but also films that were genuinely great. In Creed, and then in a bit of a lesser extent, Black Panther. And yeah, so I'm actually giving Creed a 3-0.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So
damn.
I'm very passionate about Creed. Loved Budapest, but Creed is awesome.
All right.
Yep.
You know what? I'm okay with this.
I'm glad that you're okay with that.
I'll survive.
You'll survive?
Yep.
We just love Creed so much.
You clearly do.
Yeah. This is a fun matchup, Spider-Verse and Creed.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Whiplash, Prisoners. Next matchup. I can start.
All right.
I did not get a chance to rewatch Prisoners before this, which is really unfortunate because Prisoners was another movie I was down on.
So
but
much so that you voted for Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, I did. But that was more for the bit.
Yeah, I know.
That was
for the bit.
Yeah. Because I knew no one else was voting for Wreck-It Ralph. Granted, if Rango was in that spot like it should be.
Yeah, we forgot Rango.
Yeah, we forgot Rango. We
What?
probably
You
should have.
guys forgot about Rango.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, that was something that we realized like midway through the tournament and then forgot that we forgot Rango and that we said that we should put it on the tournament and then we forgot to do that.
Yeah.
And then we realized like right before we started recording that Rango wasn't there.
Our
and then
bad,
we were
guys.
Like, well, yeah, it's not there. Sorry. Rango's great though. And that would have genuinely beat Prisoners for me. But anywho, Prisoners is a very dour film. It's very dark, and that's why I didn't vote too heavily for it, because it just doesn't make you feel good. Granted, it has some of the best performances just of the decade. Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman are firing on all cylinders. They are both incredible here. Have some really good quiet moments, but also then just extreme fits of pure, just unfiltered rage. I have never seen rage encapsulated in a film like I have in Prisoners, except for in Whiplash. Yeah. J.K. Simmons gives maybe my favorite performance of the decade, closely followed by Miles Teller, who is awesome as Andrew Neiman.
I feel like people forget about him because of J.K. Simmons.
Agreed.
Yes, but like Teller is insane as like Andrew Neiman, and it's too bad that like Simmons does overshadow him a bit, but that's kind of the point anyways, that like J.K. Simmons as Fletcher is this just huge personality and he overshadows everyone. He makes everyone feel like absolute dog shit. And then you have Neiman. You know, I mean, his last name is Neiman. Like, he's not in the best spot. But he really does stand his own, and I just want to highlight the ending. I think it's kind of clear where I'm going on how I'm voting here.
Yeah.
Whiplash is my favorite movie, just point blank period.
Just ever?
Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
So, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have revealed that.
No, it's okay.
But yeah, so Whiplash is my favorite movie, just ever. The ending of just drumming for like 10 minutes to some of the best music I have heard in film, period. It is awesome. And there's so much story told in just all that drumming that you don't need words for. And some people that have seen Whiplash aren't able to pick up on it, which is unfortunate. Like, I watched it with my mom, and she didn't really get it because she's used to books. She's an author. So when she didn't see any of that, like, kind of obvious storytelling, it was kind of hard for her, and I get why it might be hard for some people to understand the storytelling that does happen towards the end of Whiplash. But as somebody that is just really into film, this to me was perfect directing, perfect screenwriting. The cinematography, the editing here was just so zippy and zany and just perfect. It is a this is the definition just overall of the perfect movie to me. So with that being said, I'm giving Whiplash 3-0.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I can show my phone.
You can.
I mean, it's kind of obvious, but yeah.
I'll go next.
You'll go
That's
next.
cool.
That is cool.
That's cool.
All right. Yeah, I'm just not gonna beat around the bush. Also 3-0 Whiplash.
Oh, okay. Thank God.
Yeah. Sorry, Brendan.
Thank God.
If we were gonna side with prisoners, yeah.
Should I say what I was gonna?
Are
you
we
also-
9-0ing?
Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I do love Prisoners.
Yeah.
I would like to just say for a bit, I do think Prisoners is one of Villeneuve's best films, and just like a lot what Logan said, two fantastic performances from Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. Really uncomfortable, really anxiety-inducing, a really thrilling story. Just it's going up against Whiplash, so it's hard.
That's the thing for me is like even though we do have 3 votes and can go 2-1 if we want to, I'm kind of trying to save my 2-1s for where it genuinely is really close for me. And so
Yeah,
as much as I love Prisoners, and it is like I would have been really upset if it didn't make it to the Sweet 16 because I just love it that much, and I think it's like Villeneuve's second best movie. I love it to death. Whiplash is also one of my favorite movies ever, and so like I'd be kidding myself if I gave Prisoners, like I've already given Prisoners the love. We've barely even talked about Whiplash, and I now just want to gush about Whiplash.
Well, I feel like now you should save it.
I should
for
say
the next
one
Whiplash
thing I just
matchup.
want to add for this round.
Okay.
His name is Andrew Neiman. It's not Andrew Neiman. He says it once right at the beginning, and then
I
Fletcher
never
keeps
knew that.
saying Neiman just to spite him.
Oh my god.
And it's
wow.
perfect.
That's
And like
yeah.
it took like 4 watches for me to catch on to that, but it's such a perfect detail.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's my little Whiplash Easter egg for this round. We'll get more into it later.
I
Okay.
did not know that. That's
'Cause
shocking.
it is the first total clear of this episode.
I wish I didn't talk so much about Whiplash.
No,
now.
you're good. We'll talk about it more.
Well, I know, but like I feel like I said a lot of what I wanted to say.
Come up
I
with
could've
more. It's
saved it.
Whiplash. You
It
have
is
more
Whiplash.
to say.
There's more I can say.
All right.
Okay, well,
Anything else you want
Black-
to add, Brendan?
No,
Okay.
nothing else.
All
Just
right, we'll save it for the
Whiplash
next
is
show.
Whiplash.
Yep.
all right. So then, in that case, since I know that things are clearing, can I just ask if Get Out clears Black Swan? I think
We
it
give it
does.
3 O's for all of us.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
does.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I think we should save some Get Out discussion. Does
Okay.
anybody, I did not get a chance to rewatch Black Swan. Does anybody want to talk about Black Swan
I'll
for
do
a
it
second?
briefly,
Okay.
just to explain why I'm 3-0ing it, because like I fought very hard against you, Logan, specifically to keep Black Swan making it this far in the tournament.
Yeah.
It's just that comparing it to Get Out, like without even going into specifics about the movies themselves, I am so passionate about Get Out and could talk about it maybe even more than any other movie on here. Black Swan, I had a very tough time talking about repeatedly in the week 3 episode because while yes, it's amazing and it's like pretty perfect, I'm just not so emotionally attached to it. Like
Yeah.
I watch it and I'm like, yeah, that's incredible. Next.
Mhm.
I just don't have many opinions that haven't already been said, and I'm not super passionate about it. And so for me, it has to be a 3-0 because like this is not only the best movies of the decade, it's the ones that we personally are just the most attached to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I guess I'm gonna ask that again for Social Network and Knives Out. I think Social Network clears Knives Out.
As do I.
Yeah.
2-1, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, we're sorry to rush through this. I mean, I'm glad that we are because we are pretty far through, but I don't want to waste our time talking about a matchup if we're all gonna be like a pretty decisive
Yeah.
victory.
I will say that Knives Out is one of my favorite movies, and I love it so much. But I
Yeah.
do have to give the edge to Social Network just because of how good it is in terms of its writing, direction, and acting. Just
Yeah, there are
So,
5
yeah.
movies in the Sweet 16 that I have read the screenplays for. The Social Network and Knives Out are 2 of them. And really, the Knives Out screenplay is one of my favorites of the decade. Just I love talking about Rian Johnson because he has pissed so many people off just with Star Wars. But like,
Yeah.
he is the king of subverting expectations, and there are so many little Easter eggs that just completely take what you know about the whodunit genre and topple it on its head, and it's perfect. We also didn't really talk about Glass Onion at all when talking about Knives Out last time. I love Glass Onion too, and I think it just confirms that he is, we've said this before, just in his bag with this genre, with this
Yeah.
character. Daniel Craig's performance is incredible. Hearing that accent for the first time was
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, but like it's The Social Network.
Okay. I think we have a matchup
Yeah, this is a matchup.
for the next one. Okay. Okay. Who would like to start for Inception versus The Favorite?
I'll take it if no one
You'll
else is
take-
going
okay.
to.
Yeah. You kickstart it.
This is an interesting one. I think Inception, I mentioned this before, Inception was kind of my first favorite movie, starting from like when I fully started watching movies and analyzing them, but I haven't watched it in a really long time. I had a phase where I thought, is Inception really one of my favorites? And then I watched it again, and I was like, yeah, it is. But I haven't gone back to it since then. I still think that if I were to rewatch it, I would think that, but it has been a while. And so it's interesting comparing that to The Favorite, which I only have watched twice, once 4 years ago, and was like kind of half asleep for it and totally forgot about. And then Logan, you and me rewatched it recently. Yeah. And I fell in love with it completely. Yeah. And it was like very easy, 5 stars. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it before. Another one of those movies that just any element of it that you look at is just kind of incredible. Mm-hmm. And so it's really tough for me to vote on this one because I feel like I'm leaning The Favorite because of recency bias, but I also know in my heart of hearts that like if it weren't for Inception, this appreciation that I have for movies, I'm not going to say it wouldn't be there because I do think it would be there, but it would have been through a different movie. And so it is just so firmly foundational to me as a cinephile.
That's fair.
And so I'm giving it to Inception 2-1.
Okay.
But it's really close, and I think in time, like if a year from now I were to rewatch both of these, I might lean The Favorite, but I think it's too fresh in my head to say, yeah, it beats that movie.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, Brendan, you want to go?
Yeah, so like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, The Favorite was a movie I wasn't too big on during the first couple of rounds, and I voted against it over a couple movies. But I also gave it a rewatch just yesterday, and I now love it, I can say. I think it's a really gripping drama, just with a fantastic story of a power struggle between just 3 people, just excellent performances from Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, and Rachel Weisz. They are just phenomenal in here. It's so tightly crafted in its filmmaking. I love the camera work and the editing choices throughout. It's hilarious. I think after this rewatch, my favorite Yorgos Lanthimos movie changed from Poor Things to The Favorite. I think this is just a little better. I think this is really excellent, like funny. It's kind of weird. Mm-hmm. It's really dramatic. And then we have Inception, which I think is one of Nolan's best. It's a phenomenal heist sci-fi action thriller. It's just Christopher Nolan at his best, telling a very complicated story and kind of world, but kind of explaining in a way where it's easy to follow, and you have a great core in main character who you know their struggles and you're rooting for them throughout, and just a great supporting cast. There's a lot of heart to this. There's a lot of thrilling action scenes, phenomenal effects, just great direction from Nolan. It's one of the best, and I'm probably going to be the only one, and I have a feeling The Favorite's going to win for this, but I could be wrong. But I'm giving 3-0 for Inception.
Well, then Inception.
I love
Inception just won.
Oh, right.
Takes 5 to win.
Yep.
Well.
Oh, that really bums me out.
Sorry. I do love The Favorite, but it's just no shade.
I really thought you were about a 2-1, and I was going to be so happy.
Are you 3-0ing?
Yeah, I'm 3-0ing for The Favorite.
Okay.
I think this is the funniest movie on the entire bracket.
It's so funny.
I think this is the best comedy I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm literally just going to say
I love how much we have both just like fallen in love with it immediately.
This movie is just so hysterical. And I'm so mad that Inception won because I don't want to say I hate Inception, but I kind of want to say I hate Inception. When I said
Do you
that,
need to rewatch it?
No.
Really?
I've watched it like 3 times, and it's gotten worse every single time.
When was your most recent rewatch?
Just barely over a year ago.
Okay.
like so pretty recent.
So you're pretty steadfast in this opinion.
Yeah, I just think it's boring. I think it's a boring movie
crazy
with
take.
good effects, but literally spends the entire movie just explaining a bunch of stuff.
But that's what I love about it.
I don't care about any of these characters. I don't care about the relationship. The effects are cool, but that's it.
But dreams.
It's so, yeah. it's effects. That's it. And that's why I'm kind of mad because I really wanted to talk about The Favorite versus The Social Network, but that's okay.
That
We're
would
not
have been a
gonna
fun
do that.
matchup.
Would have been so fun.
That would have been fun.
So remember when I said that I was like, oh, I have 4.5 and 5 stars on this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Inception's the one?
Inception's the one. I almost want to give it 3, but it is a 3.5 star movie for me. It's a lot lower. It's one of my least favorite Nolan movies. I'm just not a fan. I think
can't
Inception
even tell you to watch it again.
Yeah.
Because you've done that already.
I've seen it. I've tried,
Yeah.
and it's literally gotten worse every single time.
All right.
Wow.
So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not on the Inception train whatsoever, while I'm so on The Favorite train.
There is potential that if I had rewatched Inception for this episode, that The Favorite would have won, but I didn't.
Yeah.
That's so unfortunate.
It's all right.
I'm sorry,
It's
Logan.
all
I
right.
know.
Inception is just going through.
That's okay. But yeah, 3-0 to The Favorite. Would have been such a fun matchup, but oh well. Guess
Yep.
I'm going to 3-0 Social Network when
Inception
we get
wins
there.
5-4. All right.
Okay.
All right. Time for the Elite Eight, guys. We're
Here we go.
moving along.
We are.
All right.
Sorry about my Inception rant.
No, you're good.
Oh, you're good.
Oh, this is hard.
This is a toughie.
Oh my god.
This is evil.
I mean, this is the one that I think we all kind of knew was probably going to happen,
Yeah.
but this is hard.
It's fun that we have 2 1-seed versus 2-seed matchups, though, because, I don't know. I just like the seeding. I just like how all the top seeds are making it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't like that.
I
You're not a big fan.
I think that it's nice to have an underdog. That's why I
Well,
like
Creed
that.
is our underdog. It's
Creed is
27 seed.
Creed is the perfect underdog too.
Yeah, and it's also
it's an underdog story.
It feels like the only underdog because Creed and The Social Network are the only 2 movies that aren't 1 or 2 seed, and The Social Network feels like it should be a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Like it beat a 1 seed.
Yeah. Well, Creed I don't think feels like a 27 seed, but it does feel.
It feels like an underdog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
I
kind
mean,
of
Creed himself is an
It's
underdog.
Creed.
Exactly. God, I'm still figuring out how I want to vote here.
Should I go first? Just while you guys, or no?
Sure.
Because
I can't see the list. What's the?
it's Parasite versus La La
La La
Land.
I can go first.
Go first.
So, yep, another 2 favorites. Have to choose one of them. I love both of them so much. Parasite, just a really great thriller, really great drama with some comedy and a little scariness in between. Excellently well written. I think Ethan said this last time. So many great editing choices throughout. They're very subtle, and it's about a lot of social class and has a lot of really compelling themes. And it's just really well done in that way. And I still love La La Land a lot. Excellent directing, excellent cinematography, just an impressive achievement in those matters. I think the Another Day in Sun sequence is so incredible, and it's hard to imagine how that was done. And and it was done so well. And the epilogue scene, so beautiful, so touching, and the argument scene between Mia and Sebastian, just
The green
really
lighting.
well done. Yeah, the green lighting, how the lighting changes is just so expertly well made. But you also have Parasite, the excellent chase scene, the excellent climax, the ending. It's a really tough choice, but I'm gonna have to go 2 Parasite, 1 for La La Land, just because of how incredible Parasite is from beginning to end, from both directing, screenplay, editing, everything. Even the production design, which isn't talked about much. That house is really well done, and we haven't talked about it. The family, the rich family, they're not evil, but there's clear reasons why the other family are not too big of fans of them, and why you're kind of rooting for the main family to kind of steal their money and kind of work for them.
Yeah. So, I rewatched Parasite, and I guess the way I can describe the way I feel about Parasite is almost the way I feel about a movie like The Godfather. It's one of those movies that is so good, and you know that everybody knows that it's so good, and you know that it's going to forever be considered one of the greatest movies of all time. And it's probably right now widely considered the best movie of the 2000s and the 2010s,
of the century.
of the
so
century.
far?
That's what I
Yeah.
just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being said, it's like how I would never personally say The Godfather is one of my favorite movies of all time, or how Citizen Kane isn't one of my favorite movies of all time. It's so good, and you recognize how good it is, but the way it's aged for me is really interesting, where it's like so good, but almost like overly talked about, and I don't know. It's a weird way that I feel about it, because I liked the way, like I liked it when I watched it, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. Meanwhile, to me, La La Land is a magical movie. It's a dream, and it is beautiful, and Damien Chazelle is incredible. And this is probably a really hot take that most of your listeners are going to disagree with, but I am 3-0ing for La La Land.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Oh, this kills me.
This kills
This
you.
kills me so much.
I'm sorry.
I actually hate this. This might be my least favorite matchup we've ever had.
Yeah.
The thing with Parasite is that I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
Where, like, other than that chunk of people who consider Lord of the Rings Return of the King the best movie of the century so far and, like, best movie of all time.
But that's like a hot take, too.
I don't
Like,
even know if
yeah.
it's not a hot take. I just feel like not enough people have it to where I
Yeah.
can put it aside with Parasite as, like,
Mm-hmm.
tied. Like, Parasite to me, to a lot of people, is just that movie. And while I agree that, like, everyone just knows it's perfect, it's different from The Godfather, because The Godfather, well, yeah, it's amazing, it's Godfather. I don't have that passion for it. Parasite, I still do. And even though I have watched La La Land 4 times since the last time I watched Parasite, I am still more passionate about Parasite
Really?
than La La Land. And so I'm giving it the edge. But is it the 3-0 edge or the 2-1 edge? It's the 2-1 edge.
Oh.
So La La Land wins.
Oh, wow.
Which hurts me. But I'm
Damn.
okay with it. Because La La Land is La La Land.
Yeah.
It's so perfect. And like we've talked about it way more than Parasite, which I feel like sucks because now we're not going to talk about Parasite again. One genre for Parasite I didn't mention, it's a heist movie.
It is.
It's
It
like
is.
kind of a heist movie where it's like the whole thing is just them trying to get away with it somehow, and you're just trying to see what they can do to like kind of cleanly get away. That whole like 30 minutes that kind of starts 10 minutes before the midpoint when they're just vibing in the house.
And then
through
all
the
of a
whole
sudden, yeah.
sequence when they're like the housekeeper comes back, they go into the basement, then they come back, then they're hiding under the table, and then that incredible sequence where it's just them walking back home and then their home is flooded.
Yeah.
That sequence is like one of my favorite sequences in all of film ever. And then the peach montage.
The peach
Yeah,
montage.
Come
the
on!
peach montage, the ending. There's also just little things with this too, like the smell.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
You know, it's that, and that's my issue. This
Really?
movie is like too perfect. It just does like everything right, and for whatever reason, that just hasn't aged too well with me. I don't know, it's weird for me.
Okay.
Because I feel like I should not be 3-0ing with La La Land, but I am.
No, it's okay. Because, like, if you don't have passion for the other movie, it's
Yeah.
an immediate 3-0. Because the movies at this point are just too good to not
Exactly. And it's just like, I really liked Parasite, but I wasn't passionate about
That's
it.
fair, yeah.
That's fair.
You know?
Yeah, so La La Land upsets 5-4, and Parasite, which was not only a 1 seed, but the highest ranked 1 seed,
Yeah.
is out.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't expect this.
I didn't expect this. That's why I was really struggling, because I was like, am I really about a 3-0
How
La La
close
Land
were
for-
you to 2-1ing it?
Pretty close. I mean, like, you
Okay.
saw me being, like, struggling.
Yeah.
It wasn't
You
that
were,
I was
like, sitting
struggling
for a
between the
minute.
two. It was more just like, am I really about a 3-0 La La Land?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse versus Creed.
I really adore Into the Spider-Verse and Creed. So the way that I'm going to be voting on this is based on the franchises. Creed is the best film in its franchise, while Spider-Verse is getting better. Yeah, this was the introduction of Spider-Verse, but it's getting better, and the animation is getting better, and it's getting more intricate, and the emotions are just everything is amplifying and ramping up for Spider-Verse. So I kind of look at Into the Spider-Verse like this movie that had a magical moment, but then anytime I like rewatch it, I'm just like, this is good, but Across is better. So then whenever I watch Into the Spider-Verse, like, I'm just thinking, why don't I just watch Across? You know, and there's that little like thing that just kind of hangs there for me. And Creed is like that one matchup where I feel like I could talk about it like that, because I watch Creed and it's like, there's no other Rocky movie I would rather be watching. There's no other Creed movie I would rather be watching. Creed is the movie of that franchise, which is one of the biggest franchises in film, just period. It should have like been a bigger competitor for Best Picture. I can't remember who else was up there for Best Picture that year.
What was that? That was 2015?
I guess.
Spotlight
won.
The Revenant.
Yeah,
Revenant was really close.
Creed should have won Best Picture. That, in my opinion. In my opinion, Creed should have won Best Picture.
It was a weaker year, though, I think.
Yeah. And Sylvester should have won. Sylvester should have won Best Supporting Actor. Sadly, that all did not happen. Regardless, I love this film. I love this franchise. I'm going 2-1 for Creed. Like, again, these are both fantastic franchises and fantastic films. It's weird that I have to compare it based on franchises, but I just kind of feel like because it was so close for me as films, that's where I was kind of going. Yeah.
Okay.
You might think it's a stupid take.
I don't.
Okay.
Brendan?
Really, really hard, because I think the best my favorite Rocky movie going up against my favorite Spider-Man movie. I think I like Into the Spider-Verse the slightest more than Across the Spider-Verse. So I disagree that it kind of just, it's a magical moment, but that gets better. I think it's always been amazing from the start, and it's just continued.
I mean, it has always been amazing from the start. I just mean, like, now it's like double amazing.
Really hard. Like, I made a whole list of my favorite movies of the 2010s just to make sure, like, what movie I liked more than the other, so I wasn't like contradicting myself, or I didn't have to like spend 5 minutes making a single decision. And 2 of these movies are, one of them's the 5th favorite of the decade, one of them's the 6th favorite. So it's just they're just as good for me, and I have to choose one over the other, and it's really heartbreaking. And I love both of these movies so much. Excellent franchise films, excellent stories where they're introducing a new main character that's passing the torch from a mentor figure who needs to get convinced to kind of get back into the game. And I think they both do it really well, but one of them does it slightly better, and that's Creed. So I love both these movies with my heart, but I'm going Creed 2-1 for Into the Spider-Verse. Once again, this is maybe the toughest matchup ever, because they're both. Whoa. I love these movies so much, but I think maybe just because of Creed, you get the mentor story a little better. Not that true, Peter B. Parker is bad, but like Miles is clearly the best part of that movie, whereas in Creed, you get Adonis Creed and you get Rocky, and their stories are both amazing. And I forgot to talk about the romance and the villain story. That's also great. And especially with the end, how it's like, it's just because the guy's going to prison. It's like, it makes it different from Rocky 1. Like, they're both very similar story structure, but like the differences, I think, make it unique and make it its own thing.
I am super compelled by the fact that, Logan, me and you, we agree on so many points, but then disagree on like the ultimate conclusion of what those points mean. Mm-hmm. Where I agree with you. I think Creed is the best Rocky movie, and I think Into the Spider-Verse is not the best Spider-Verse movie. But for me, I do lean Spider-Verse because I'm going to be so honest, I just don't care for Rocky as a franchise. Oh. The first Creed is literally the only Rocky movie that I'm like, hell yeah, let's watch that. Mm-hmm. Whereas like the other Rocky movies, the other 2 Creed movies, like, yeah, they're good, but I'm like very rarely going to think about them or even put them on. And while I will prefer Across the Spider-Verse to Into the Spider-Verse, Into still, like, even with Across now being out, it still holds up. It's still incredible. Oh, yeah. It's still a 5-star movie to me. And so, like, even though the Spider-Verse franchise is only 2 movies right now, I think, like, it means so much more to me than all of the Rocky and Creed movies, to where even though Creed is better in comparison to its respective franchise, I still prefer Into the Spider-Verse. And I'm very sorry, guys.
Oh, you're 3-0ing.
But I prefer it so much that I'm 3-0ing it.
Okay.
So Spider-Verse makes it. Sorry. I've put the underdog just out of it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You know what? It's
I
okay.
feel bad.
Creed had an excellent run. Maybe the best run out of all of the seeds that aren't like
I
in
feel
the
like
top
La La
five.
Land is the new underdog because it took down Parasite.
True.
I guess.
I don't
You know what? I'm fine with that. I still love Into the Spider-Verse.
and the joke
It's
is
my
I was-
sixth favorite movie going up against my fifth favorite
Yeah.
movie.
I was
That's
very
fine.
close to giving Creed the 3-0, but I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, oof.
Because
Yeah.
I was close to giving Creed a vote. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. So we're both just okay.
Okay.
I guess next up we got
Whiplash versus Get Out. 2 Blumhouse movies.
Two
Really?
Blumhouse movies.
I always forget Whiplash was like a Blumhouse movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not surprised
Yeah.
because I could just kind of like see that being like some random Blumhouse movie, and I feel
It
like
was
I've
like
seen
before
that
they were
before, but I
fully like a
forgot.
horror
Yeah.
studio. Yeah.
Okay. So who
I'm
wants
not
to
going
s-
first.
I'm not going first. You're going
I will
first.
go first. Yeah, I love these movies so much, even better than the last 2 movies that we went up against. They're just some of my favorites of the decade. They're phenomenal, fantastic lead performances that probably don't get talked about as much as they should. Miles Teller is excellent in Whiplash, and Daniel Kaluuya is excellent in Get Out. A lot of the movie works because of his reactions, kind of his performance, and how he kind of takes action and kind of gets his way out. I think I love Get Out so much. Maybe my favorite horror movie of all time, I believe. I love the story. I love its themes. And the more I've watched it, the more I pick up little details that kind of foreshadow what's to come. Such an excellent, the writing, every single aspect really needs to be important. Especially with Rose's character, hers needed to be written the exact way it did in order to get that reveal at the last third. The information that was revealed had to be revealed as slowly as it did throughout in order to get that emotion, to get the audience intrigued, or at least to get us intrigued into the story. So many, we watched the scene in one of my film classes for a day talking about cinematography and sound design. I was just obsessed with this. I love it so much, and I rewatched it for screenwriting to talk about how each scenes were in, and I kind of forgot about that I was watching it because I just kept getting invested into the film. It's just that good. So many excellent editing choices, such a great supporting cast that really have to play it the way that it is. Jordan Peele's direction, just excellent in foreshadowing what's to come without giving anything away. Just extremely entertaining. So many great comedy, so many funny moments, so many scary moments. That last third, just like Prisoners, one of the most suspenseful third acts I've ever seen. I was just on the edge of my seat, rooting for the main character to get to do what they have to do. Just love it so much. And then Whiplash, I also love so much. Just some of the best editing, sound editing, the mixing, the music, the acting, the lighting, and the directing. I could gush over Whiplash forever, but I can't because just every single thing is firing on all cylinders. It's not a cinematography movie. It's not a editing movie. It's not a directing movie. It's just everything in it is amazing. It's a really powerful story, building these 2 tensions between Neiman and Fletcher throughout, and then they clash at the end, and it's just an amazing achievement how they make all those drumming scenes that well done. So many different emotions. So I think I'm going to give it to Whiplash and Get Out, which is really hard because they're both all-time favorites, but I like Whiplash just a little more.
That's fair.
Maybe just for Fletcher's performance and the intensity throughout, I think gives it a little edge.
That's
All right.
fair.
I'm going to go next because with a claim like Whiplash is my favorite movie of all time, I feel like this is our last time to talk about Get Out, which sucks because this is kind of the first round we even are talking about it, where it's just been the odds-on favorite every time to where we just kind of skimmed past each matchup it's been a part of, and now it's against Whiplash. And so I now have to put all of my Get Out discussion into one matchup.
Did I ruin the
No,
whole
it's
tournament? I
fine.
feel like
No.
I ruined the rest of the
No.
tournament.
No, and it's okay because
you guys know exactly how I'm
No,
voting.
because if I'm being honest, I like Whiplash more than Get Out. I'm giving Whiplash 2-1.
Oh, okay.
But like Get Out is so incredible and is just easily one of the best movies of the decade, one of my favorite movies of the decade, and I think 50, 100 years from now will be looked at still as one of the defining movies of the decade.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan Peele coming from this highly comedic background and taking that and making a horror movie is so compelling, where like I do think horror and comedy are so similar and yet also polar opposites, where it's really just about getting that kind of reaction out of your audience and kind of using whatever filmmaking tools are at your disposal to make that happen. And while, yes, that's kind of every genre a little bit, I think the emotions associated with comedies and with horror movies are just two polar opposites at the total, like, opposite end of the spectrum. And Get Out being this deconstruction of just kind of, like, one, racism in America, but also upstanding liberal types who may on the surface seem like they're on the right side of history, but also harboring those prejudices, those biases. Like Bradley Whitford is the dad with the "I would have voted for Obama a third term if I could." I love that. I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets better every time. It's one of my favorite screenplays of all time. I loved reading it when I like sat down to read it that one fateful day.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many cool Easter eggs, like the fact that anyone who's had the surgery either has on like a wig or a hat to hide the scars.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that when everyone shows up for the party, they're driving black cars because like they're ideally driving black bodies too if they win like the bingo thing.
Oh.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Like Chris has to pick cotton to save his life. Genius. It's like just every single aspect of it is so perfect. I love the sunken place. I love how it's not explained at all. It's just kind of there. I love when that's done with surrealism, or like totally different examples, but like something like Spirited Away, something like The Leftovers, when it goes just so crazy, so hog wild on something you've never seen before. And that's kind of it. There's no explanation. And while I stand by, I love Inception because it explains everything so much, and I'm really invested in it. I think on the flip side, it's also really cool when you don't know anything about it, and it's just kind of there because it gives the movie this whole unique aura. Like the scenes where he's just falling are so terrifying, where like it's him falling and then it cuts back to him in the chair just like wide-eyed, tearing up. He has no control over his body. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I love like how it's so emphasized at that party that like everyone wants to like be black because they interpret it as like being stronger. Chris gets out in the end by outsmarting the Armitage family.
Yeah.
The whole scene when like Caleb Landry Jones is like putting him in the headlock and keeps kicking the door closed, and Chris notices that, and so he stabs his leg when he kicks out, and that's how he gets him. Just like it's just genius
Yeah, it
writing.
wasn't strength.
Yeah, it's
So many excellent
everything
details.
is just set up and payoff, and it's perfect. Rod, the TSA agent, is like such perfect comedic relief.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a much
You need
more
him.
standard form of comedic relief than I usually like, but it just works so well, and I credit
It
that
does.
to just Jordan Peele's ability as a comedic writer. And I don't know, the alternate ending where Chris gets arrested is crazy. That's a thing that exists. That's
I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I've
it's where
seen it,
instead of Rod, it's just a regular cop and he gets arrested.
I'm not surprised. that
Yeah.
that's it.
And it's like I understand why that wasn't used, because like that would have been depressing as hell. But like
Yeah.
it's so perfect, and I could go on and on forever about Get Out, and I hate it. So the scene when it's Hiroki Tanaka at the party, and he's like asking about the African American experience compared to the Asian experience, where like your first time watching it, you don't know why any of these things are being said, why they're being asked, but on rewatch, it's so compelling.
Yeah.
And then when he asks Lakeith Stanfield, like, what's your experience like being an African American? And because it's this old white guy in his body, he's like, I think it's been very good.
Yeah.
And the Lucky gives like, come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
Not what you were supposed to say. It's just perfect, and I hate that I'm voting against it, but like Whiplash is very obviously, I think, gonna win here. So
Like the whole thing.
either the whole thing or at the very least just this round. So,
Yeah.
like, I needed to talk about Get Out as much as I could because I don't think I'm going to get a chance to again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I'll preface this with I have Whiplash winning 3-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because you loved Get Out so much on your
I
recent
did.
rewatch.
I loved it on my rewatch. I'm going to try to highlight some things that we didn't really talk about. Get Out has a moment that it keeps flashing back to in Chris's childhood.
Yes.
And most movies, most filmmakers, most writers would have had like a full flashback sequence. Jordan Peele, the genius that he is, has one shot.
It's so good.
It's one incredibly haunting shot of the back of Chris as a child looking at the TV.
The rain coming down.
Yeah, the rain
so
sound
great.
effect. Just this vibrant, depressing, mortifying shot. And that's all the flashback you get. Most directors would have had a full thing, but Peele is a mad genius. And I have a take about Jordan Peele. I think he is our like centuries, generations Hitchcock. Yeah. I mean, I think that multiple people have said that, but
It's true.
He is. He's that good. And I'm just, my worry is that, and I hope it's not the case, is that soon the conversation of Peele being Hitchcock will shift to Peele being Orson Welles.
Yeah.
In the sense that this is Peele's first movie, and not only is it his best movie so far, but it is widely acclaimed as one of the greatest movies ever made, and is creeping up higher and higher on Sight and Sound's like 100.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that this is his peak, and I really hope that like he does make another movie that is this good and this smart and this intricate, or even more so, because just like you don't get movies this good that often. If you put Get Out in the 2020s, I think it's the best movie of the 2020s.
I'd
agree.
might agree with that.
Yeah. Like we haven't gotten a movie this good in a long time.
Yeah.
And I hope we get another zinger like this from Peele. With that,
can I just when the cop like comes up after they hit the deer
yeah.
and he asks to see Chris's ID. And Rose is like, no, he wasn't driving. I was driving. Here's my ID. It's not because she's like, oh, the cop's racist. Let me be a good girlfriend. She doesn't want there to be a paper trail of them together.
Yeah.
That's 10 minutes into your first feature. How? So good.
And she did like, and it's smart the way that it was.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, it's
She
just-
performs it like any girlfriend would.
exactly like just
And-
the layers.
And I'm
Yeah.
really glad they went with the ending that we got where Chris makes it out, because the writing is so good where you really want Chris to get out. Like you really want him to win in the story.
I think while the alternate ending like says so much more about society,
Yeah.
I think it would have just like I don't know. It would have undermined a lot of the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And it would have just been like, I get it's a real downer and I love movies with downer endings. I feel like you needed something at the end.
I feel like you needed something at the end
Yeah.
too, especially because like, I don't know, I guess ending it on a downer would have been a very like European ending,
yeah.
but this is like a very true to America film. It's a very American film.
Yeah.
I feel like you need to end an American film like an American film.
And I feel like more credit to Peele as a writer that he had that genius of an ending and didn't go with it because he knew that the other ending was still better.
Yeah. Like he set up two great endings, but made the smart decision of going with the one that just worked better for the story it was, for the audience that it was going for.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Get Out, like, and that's the other thing too, when comparing Get Out and Whiplash, it's only people like us that are saying that Whiplash is better.
Yeah.
We are very much in the minority. This take that Whiplash is better than Get Out extends to film people.
Yeah.
It does not extend to the greater, like, wider society. Get Out, in 100 years, will still be one of the greatest movies of all time. If anything, it's just going to be higher than it is now, because right now, people aren't putting it there because they're waiting for, like, recency bias to subside.
Agreed.
But Whiplash, on the other hand, yeah, maybe it'll be up there for some people, but not for everybody, because it just didn't have the cultural moment that Get Out did, and it never will. But yeah, with that being said, I did 3-0 Whiplash for a reason. I already talked about it. Gonna talk about it more later, maybe. And I think we should just get going to the final.
I'm glad we crammed all of our Get Out discussion into like one segment, though.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad that we got to talk about Get Out. Social Network, in my opinion, clears Inception.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love Inception, but
9-0.
9-0.
All right.
You know,
Okay.
I think.
That's so satisfying to me.
Yeah,
so
Inception does a really great job of explaining everything and kind of building a complicated story, but also The Social Network also is kind of a complicated story because it travels across two different lawsuits in the past and the present, but it does it in a brilliant way, and it's always easy to follow. Where Inception, I could see how somebody could be confused in Inception, but I think The Social Network is so excellent, it's always easy to tell.
Yeah.
All right.
So
on to the final four.
La La Land and Spider-Verse
Yup.
is our next matchup.
I'm very resolute in my voting, but it still upsets me.
I feel like the potential final matchup we could get here.
I know. I was looking at that.
Amazing. It would be really cool to get
that would be awesome
to get that final matchup.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to let that determine how I vote.
I'm not letting it determine my voting, but I feel like it just naturally might happen. We'll see.
It might. All right. Who wants to start? I can start
Okay.
if no one else wants to. Okay. I love how it was just silent.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I guess I'm starting.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked both of these movies to death a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to think of what more to add to the conversations that we've already started, but now that these two are paired up against each other, it's very much a coming of age superhero animation film up against this just bombastic, emotional romance musical. And for the matchup, I really wanted to go with La La Land. I really did, but I am going to give the 2-1 edge to Spider-Verse for my pick. I just think that Spider-Verse is a beautiful film. And it was so close with Creed to me. I do have La La Land below Spider-Verse by like a little bit. Yeah, I think Spider-Verse... It was a monumentally like nostalgic movie for me as well. And La La Land, I actually was kind of cold on La La Land until the last time I watched it. And then I was like, okay, I finally get it with La La Land. I get why people love this movie. But beforehand, I was like, it's like a fine movie, but it's the worst of the 3 Damien Chazelle movies that I'd seen. And now I don't agree with that take.
Okay.
Now, yeah, but... On the other hand, Spider-Verse to me has always been this just 5-star magnum opus of a animation film until they made another 5-star magnum opus of an animation film. But that doesn't take away from the fact how great this film is on its own. And yeah, it's excellent. Okay.
All right. Brendan?
Extremely hard choice because these are two all-time favorites, but I have to go with a 2-1 to Into the Spider-Verse over La La Land. Into the Spider-Verse gets a 2-1, one of the best superhero movies of all time. Just, I think what gives it just the excellent What's Up Danger scene, the leap of faith, the beautiful animation, the relationship between Miles and Uncle Aaron. So well done. I kind of technically knew that Aaron Davis was going to be the Prowler because Donald Glover plays that character in Spider-Man Homecoming, but I kind of forgot about it because the writing was so well done and they built that connection between the two so well that it was kind of shocking to see him be the Prowler, and it was so sad to see him get killed by the Kingpin. And Kingpin's backstory is really great and kind of mirrors Miles in a really unique way, where Kingpin's holding on to the past, where Miles kind of has to beat Kingpin by kind of building into a better path. Also, the shoulder touch.
Yeah. Shoulder touch.
Yeah, shoulder touch.
Hey.
All right, Ethan.
I'm in this position again where it's like, yes, I'm leaning La La Land, but am I leaning La La Land so hard that I'm giving it 3-0 against Into the Spider-Verse, which, like you said, is one of the best superhero movies ever. It's one of the best animated movies ever. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best movies of the decade. And it's so tough for me. Neither of these, I had never seen movies that looked like either of these when I saw these. Where La La Land, the way that Chazelle just applies basic color theory, which has been around as long as color in film has been around, to kind of coincide with the characters' emotions and just wherever their relationship is at. The seasons, I love how he plays with the seasons because that coincides with the relationship too. And then Into the Spider-Verse, we already said, aside from like Scott Pilgrim, which I don't even know if I'd put Scott Pilgrim on the same par, just because like by being an animated movie, it has a distinct advantage.
Yeah.
Just is a comic book thrown into feature film form, and it's beautiful. It's a masterpiece. But other than Creed, which it beat, it was my least favorite movie of the Elite Eight, which feels crazy to say because I love it and it's 5 stars and it's perfect.
You're 3-0ing?
I am 3-0ing.
Whoa.
And it hurts.
I guess that's why you were like, oh, naturally it's gonna happen.
If this was La La Land versus Across the Spider-Verse, I would probably say Across wins 2-1. But like, it's La La Land. I've just loved it so much more over the last couple years. And so while I would have disagreed with this take previously, I'm doing it. I'm advancing La La Land to the finals.
I feel like I'm regretting this whole thing that we did where the 3-0
I don't think so. I think it's really fun.
It's changed the game.
Yeah.
It's changed
It's
the
really
way
changed the game.
what movie's going to win and what movies advance.
Granted, La La Land wouldn't be here. Like, wouldn't be in the final if we didn't have that rule. So... But yeah,
I think it's made it more fun, though. We're like, before we went into this, I was like, yeah, Parasite's going to be in the championship. No, it didn't even make the Final Four.
Yeah.
It's just made it more fun.
Yeah, it has made it pretty fun.
Yeah.
I agree.
Whiplash versus The Social Network.
I mean, I went first before. Don't think I
Right.
should go first again.
Right, I'll go first.
You'll go first.
Whiplash has been my favorite movie of all time. The Social Network has been my favorite movie of all time. And they went back and forth for a little while, and then Parasite kind of came into the mix for a bit. And it's just, I don't really have a favorite movie. I have like 20 that I cycle between. And I didn't get a chance to rewatch Whiplash for this. I didn't need to.
You don't need to.
I did get a chance to rewatch The Social Network. The Social Network, to me, is potentially the most perfect movie ever made. There is not a single thing about it that I can pick apart. And there are just so many sequences. The in-motion sequence when it's like him hacking, getting all the pictures from the Facebook of like all the different houses to make Face Mash. That's so perfect. Like the way it's intercut with all of the other college students partying and having the time of their lives. And he's like just cooped up in his dorm room. He's blogging simultaneously. It's so funny. It's so quotable. The scene when Max Minghella sees like on his friend's laptop that the Facebook has been like it's out and that Zuckerberg stole their website, and just the fall that he does as he's trying to leave the room is so funny. The scene when Justin Timberlake is like going on that whole monologue about Victoria's Secret so unnecessarily while like the club music is super loud, you can barely hear him. That's perfect.
Yeah.
There are just so many perfect moments, and editing-wise, direction-wise, it's my favorite score of all time. The cinematography, I think, is really underrated. There's just so much about it that is perfect, but it comes back to what you were saying of which one I have more emotional attachment to. And I think watching Whiplash, it is so electrifying, it is so exhilarating. And while The Social Network is like that too, it's more about just the craft on display than the story. I think the story of Facebook that is presented here, of Mark Zuckerberg, is amazing. And I think Andrew Garfield's character, like his place in all of that, I really resonated with a lot more on this rewatch. But like, I just, the kind of, it's not really a battle of wits, but it's just like kind of this horrible power dynamic between Fletcher and Andrew Neiman. And it's like, it's so compelling to watch, but it's also really fun. Like the scenes when Terrence Fletcher's just yelling, like J.K. Simmons is just like giving potentially my favorite performance of all time. The ending, like you mentioned, where it's just kind of 10 unbroken minutes of drumming, and that's the end of the movie. Like once it starts, like once he really gets in the zone with that solo after Caravan, there's like no more dialogue. That's just kind of it.
Yep.
The car crash scene.
I was waiting. I wanted to mention the car crash scene.
The car crash
scene
is so good.
No.
Though. It's so good though.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm giving it to Whiplash 2-1. These are like two of my all-time favorites, but I do think I prefer Whiplash just in terms of what I not only enjoy watching more, but just love.
All right, Brendan.
Two of the best movies of the decade, I would argue, going up against each other. Fantastic achievements in editing. Brilliantly well done. Some of the best directors making arguably their best film. And I love both these movies so much. The power struggle between Neiman and Fletcher is excellent. The kind of relationship between Zuckerberg and Andrew Garfield's character, Eduardo, excellent.
Mr.
Excellent.
Savrin.
How everything kind of social network, a puzzle piece that all kind of comes together slowly throughout. And they just two brilliant films. But I think I have to go 3-0 to Whiplash.
Whoa.
Damn.
Just because they're both amazing, but I think in terms of emotional residency, it's always going to be Whiplash, I think.
So what I say doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, we know what you're saying, I think.
Well, actually, you might not.
Oh.
You might not know.
Okay.
What I'm saying.
All right.
It's actually 2-1 for Whiplash.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Social Network, getting to rewatch that was honestly just such an incredible experience. Because I did not remember how good that movie was whatsoever.
I also didn't remember how good it was.
Yeah, it picks up and it just has a rhythm and a flow and it doesn't let go.
Never.
It just, the pacing is the best pacing. Like just flat out, just the best pacing. Like this, Fincher is in his bag in this movie.
His bag,
like,
dude.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He's so good. And all the performances are wonderful. I mean, like Justin Timberlake, don't really see him much in movies, but just in this, he's great.
He's just
He's perfectly classed
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
He's
just
perfect.
a total asshole. Love it.
Yeah.
And then Jesse Eisenberg, total asshole.
Yeah.
Love it.
You love it.
Andrew Garfield, not a
Not
total
an
asshole.
asshole.
And gets screwed over. Love it.
Sorry, my Prada's at the...
Like, just
perfect.
So good. And just so many iconic moments.
The in the Hall of the Mountain King
Yeah.
rowing sequence that has no reason to go so
Hilarious.
hard.
And just like perfectly placed
Yeah.
too, where it was like just kind of right after like a tense moment with like Zuckerberg, and then it's just
And it just shows how, like, not even with Facebook, but just everywhere, like, the Winklevosses are just not doing great.
No, but I think it also just shows like they just take themselves so seriously.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of a joke.
Never seen a race that
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, never seen. And it's just, yeah, like this movie is awesome, and I love it. With that being said, again, Whiplash is just my favorite movie of all time. Just flat point blank,
All right.
period. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna talk about Whiplash a little more here.
Okay.
Because I feel like this is not to spoil how I feel about the next matchup, but I
Right.
do feel like this is a tighter matchup for Whiplash.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And I agree.
And to me, Whiplash just came at a time for me when I was really beginning to give my life to film. And getting to see that in a film with somebody doing pretty much the same thing but for drumming was really fascinating. And just seeing that mindset and seeing Fletcher and the way that Fletcher treated people and being like, do I actually agree with some of Fletcher's like tactics here, and like feeling kind of uneasy about that. But just all in all, this film is just very like emotionally there, you know, and it has just such a profound understanding of passion, and it's so raw. And every little moment, the when Neiman just kind of lashes out at the dinner table with like the family friends, where he's like
really underrated scene.
yeah, very under 'cause
Excellent
it
scene.
almost got cut from the whole film.
Yeah.
That was like a thing that I think
Really?
they wanted-
Wow.
Yeah, apparently like not Chazelle didn't want to cut it. Studios wanted to cut it, and Chazelle was like, "No, we're not cutting the scene." And thank God they didn't cut that scene, because it fleshes out Neiman so much more. And really, that's like, in my opinion, that's Miles Teller's like scene, really like with performative acting of the film.
Because
You know,
what
that's
he
not more subtle acting.
Yeah, because what he says in that scene kind of parallels some of the stuff that Fletcher says
Exactly.
in one of the scenes closer to the end.
He's with Fletcher so much that it's really one of the few scenes where, like, more than anyone else in the scene, he's just dominating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, we kind of got to see the way that Fletcher has rubbed off on him and the way that he's just all in now. And he's given his whole life to Fletcher.
The way that he, like, breaks up with his girlfriend just because he's like, I'm
too.
not going to have time for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be pursuing what I'm pursuing. You're going to resent me.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
But, like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, it's insane.
The scene where Fletcher, like, asks him about his family life as if he's, like, this caring mentor, and then just uses all of that information against him.
Oh my God. And it's just, so the other thing I wanted to mention too, I've seen the short of Whiplash, like the original short. It's good, but it just doesn't stand up to the regular Whiplash. It's good. You see where it's coming from. J.K. Simmons is in it. Miles Teller is not in it. It's this guy named Jonathan Simmons, who I think is related to J.K., but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
And
Young Neil
just,
from Scott Pilgrim, right?
Hmm?
Young Neil from Scott
I
Pilgrim.
think so. Yeah. And the thing with the short is that it's the scene. It's that initial scene where Neiman's like first in there and like has the family bit used like against him. But and also like the cuts are there, like the editing is very similar. But what's not there is the performance, Miles Teller. Like you really do see how much of a difference Miles Teller makes to this film when you just see that, no offense to Jonathan Simmons, but just not that good in comparison. But also color.
The
color,
all the yellows.
Yeah, the color in this film is something that I never really thought about until watching the short. And I was like, what is missing here? And then I realized it was the color. It was that, like, just creepily warm feeling. Because you associate those warm colors with, like, a warm environment, something that's nice. But
then Fletcher's there with his bald head, and he's, like, all beast-like.
And, like, it's so warm that it's scorching you.
Yeah.
Like, Whiplash just absolutely scorches you. And I love it. But then also at the end, it goes back to the yellow for the ending of like the drumming.
Right.
And it's that harsh yellow. And it's Neiman embracing the yellow, embracing the scorching heat of his passion and being like, I am fucking doing this.
Which is so morally conflicting.
Yeah.
It's like, Fletcher wins in the end.
He does.
Gross.
Yeah. But, and it's like, do you feel rewarding? Like, do you feel rewarded or do you feel like...
It's weird because you do feel rewarded.
Yeah.
But you know you kind of shouldn't.
Yeah. But you do because the scene is so epic and good and just monumental. Yeah. I just... God, I can't wait until this is back in theaters in like 2 weeks.
It's so amazing in a technical achievement, but also just so conflicting in terms of emotions.
Yeah. Like I feel like people who think it's overrated try to use that against it, where it's like it has the wrong argument. I think Chazelle is aware of what he's doing. Mm-hmm. I think that's done with intent. I don't know.
It's very intentional,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, Chazelle's a genius.
Yeah.
He is a pure filmmaking guru, genius mastermind.
Which is why
The final is two Chazelle
just
movies.
the two Chazelle movies that were on the bracket. Whoops.
Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry to any other person who made a movie that decade.
Yeah,
Whoops.
yeah. We had Fincher here. There was a chance for Fincher to do
Right.
this, but that did not happen.
I think it's just because of where stuff was on the bracket that it just it worked out this way.
It did work out this way because, yeah, like I do feel like the bottom half of the bracket
was stronger.
Yeah, well, the top half had strong movies,
Right.
But the bottom half just had more like uniquely strong movies,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. But I don't know. I feel like if Portrait won, I think Portrait would be in place of La La Land right here, in my
Really?
opinion. At least I would have 3-0'd Portrait over La La Land.
Really?
For that matchup, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have 2-1 La La Land against Portrait.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I would have 2-1.
So
La La
then,
Land
yeah,
over
then there
Portrait.
you
Okay,
go. That
yeah.
Portrait would have been here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That's my take. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Parasite's here if you don't 3-0 it. Or if you don't 0-3 it, I guess.
yeah, but I did.
Yeah.
Sorry, Parasite. And also, the joke is now I'm 3-0ing Whiplash against La La Land.
I'm 2-1ing here.
Okay.
Because I think in the last maybe year or two, I've loved La La Land more and more, and it keeps going up, and Whiplash, and it's just because of like how much I already love Whiplash, there is just not room for that. Like, it is the first movie listed on my Letterboxd favorites right now. Not because it's my number one favorite. I don't think it is. I don't really think I have one. But, like, that is what's there.
Yeah.
And, like, every couple months I'll, like, go on and see if I want to change it. I did it last week. It's like, no, we're keeping it there.
Yeah. Whiplash isn't even on my Letterboxd favorites because mine is just kind of a meme
Yeah.
for... But
it would be number one.
It would be
Yeah.
number one.
And it's on yours?
Whiplash is like my tied, maybe second place to Shawshank Redemption from favorite movies of all time.
All right.
Like, I think Whiplash is my favorite film of the 2010s. It'd have to be a really big competition. Like,
Are
it would
you
just
3-0-ing it too?
I'm 3-0-ing it
Okay.
too. It'd have to go up against
8-1.
one of the films in my top 5. And the films in my top 5 are all not 2010s films.
Yeah.
So Whiplash just clears.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how like contentious some of these matchups got, all for Whiplash just to wipe the floor. Like the worst that Whiplash did was a 7-2 win over
Yeah.
The Social Network.
Oh.
Like,
I feel like it was just gonna happen though.
yeah, I mean, I didn't realize how much you guys loved
No,
Whiplash
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just so good.
I'm glad. I was hoping that
Yeah.
this would happen.
I
I was in the back of my mind, I thought it would, but I didn't realize it would happen like this hard.
Yeah. I say Inception is the movie that got me into movies, and I do hold to that. But like, I watched Whiplash a month before I watched Inception, and I loved it. And then Inception kind of took that spot, and I don't think I hadn't bathed in the Whiplash quality enough to say it was that movie for me. But as soon as I watched it a second time, where like because it's another movie that's just so quotable to me, and where the screenplay is just so perfect. And as soon as I knew where it was going, like the first time you watch it, you're like, where is it gonna end? Once you know where it's going, you can appreciate just the dialogue so much more. Another movie that's just perfectly paced too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, and I feel like it winning maybe wasn't inevitable, but I did kind of predict this in my mind as like one of the 3 movies at the beginning of the bracket before we did anything that was like, I wouldn't be surprised if this one.
Yeah, this was definitely, I think this was probably my number one like pick to win it.
Okay.
Like not in terms of like myself, but just predicting. But I didn't realize it would win this monumentally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's kind of my surprise.
Right.
Yeah,
Fine.
when I first thought of, when you asked me to join this bracket, I thought, what were the best films of the 2010s? And the first 2 that came out were Whiplash and Parasite. So kind of once Parasite got eliminated, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure Whiplash is going
Right.
to take home.
Yeah. What happens if The Social Network is in the first half of the bracket? What does the voting look like there?
I think The Social Network gets to the final.
Right. And what's the voting?
What do you mean?
Like what? Or actually, well, why am I asking that? We already did that.
Yeah.
I'm being an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
we,
So
we just did that.
Yeah. Does Whiplash just win no matter what?
I think so.
Dang.
I think.
I mean, it's Logan's favorite movie, and it's my like second favorite movie.
And it's like in my 5,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's
It's just the consensus, I guess.
I mean, I do think the interesting bit though is like, that's for us, and that is
Yeah.
for like. But what's also
This is
interesting is
our
that
bracket.
I think it's like our generation of like film people, like film fanatics, cinephiles, wannabe like filmmakers, whatnot. There's a huge love for Whiplash, like amongst our like age group. Really,
What I find really interesting is Whiplash's trajectory just on Letterboxd, where like it was, I think, like a 4.5 or a 4.4, and then started to dip for a little bit because people were like, there was suddenly this minor wave of like, guys, is Whiplash overrated? And then in the last like year or 2, it's gone back up a little bit because everyone's like, yeah, no, that was just a phase. It's the best.
yeah, because it's Whiplash.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good job, Damien Chazelle.
We just recorded for 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
All for Whiplash to wipe the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Whiplash.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Later, gang.
Thank you. Actually,
Oh.
thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
If
Thank
you've
you
made
for
it.
Brendan
Yeah.
for like guesting on this
Yeah,
little
Brendan-
miniseries.
yeah.
This was so
seriously.
much fun. Happy to be on this episode with
Yeah.
you. On these episodes with you guys. I watched so many new favorites for the first
Yeah.
time. Got to rewatch
Me
a lot
too.
of favorites. So
I watched
Yeah.
12 Years
It
a
was awesome.
Slave finally.
There you go.
There we go.
That's what
I
you
watched Prisoners and Her finally.
Let's
Oh,
go.
yeah. Like this was really cool getting to like do this. Like,
Yeah.
our first like I feel like really big event for
Right.
the podcast.
Yeah.
And too bad this is an episode 25. Because I feel like that would have been kind of cool.
It's fine.
It's episode 26.
That's
but
how
that's-
many letters are in the alphabet. That's a milestone.
There you go.
Yeah.
We are officially an alphabet podcast.
That's how many weeks are in half a
A to Z.
year. Like, that's pretty crazy.
Whoa. All right. Well, goodbye, everybody.
Toodles.